Chapter 1, Volume 1, Emperor's Descent Chapter 1. 9 stars aligned. Heaven's Gate opens. September 9th, Double Yang Day, Inshur. Before dawn, there were no clouds in the sky for thousands of miles. The 9 stars were especially bright. The 9 stars shone brightly, overshadowing the radiance of the countless stars in the sky. The 9 stars rotated. 7 of them formed a straight line, 7 stars aligned. The 8th star moved slowly. Gradually, it formed a line with the 7 stars. Whoosh! 8 stars aligned. A faint light wave spread in all directions. After the light wave passed, the 9 stars became more dazzling, while the other stars in the sky became dimmer. Everything was not over yet. The 9th star was also revolving, gradually moving towards the connecting line. Countless experts in the world looked at the sky, waiting for the moment when the 9 stars aligned. September 9th, Double Yang Day, was also known as the Day of Extreme Yang. When Yang was extreme, Yin would be born. On this day, Yin and Yang would be in chaos, disrupting heaven's secrets. Peak cultivators would use this opportunity to break through to a higher realm and change their fate. The 9 stars aligned was a rare occurrence. 9 stars aligned, Heaven's Gate opens. When the Heaven's Gate opens, the aura of the netherworld would flow into the world of the living, nourishing the souls of the living. The world would benefit, and the peak cultivators' souls would be nourished, making it easier for them to break through. The peak cultivators in the world were all excited. They were waiting for this moment to happen. However, ordinary people could not understand the mystery of this phenomenon. Perhaps most of them were still in dreamland. At the foot of a mountain, there was a large bamboo forest. There were some houses in the middle of the open space. They were all built with bamboo, but the bamboo houses were very grand. They were elegant and dignified. Kill! Protect the Lord! Outside the bamboo houses, there were shouts of killing. On one side, there were 40 silver-armored soldiers guarding the bamboo houses with spears in their hands. On the other side, there were 200 black-armored soldiers with sabers in their hands, fighting to the death with the silver-armored soldiers. The silver-armored soldiers were fighting 1 against 4. Their bodies were full of wounds, and their armor was stained with blood, but they were not willing to take a step back. The fighting was endless, and the most intense was between the commanders of the two sides. The silver-armor commander was a middle-aged man about 30 years old, and the black-armor commander was a muscular man about 40 years old. Huguang, what's the point of staying in the Great Yin state? He had made great contributions on the front lines, but in the end, he became the bodyguard of a young brat. Come to my great Zheng. I will recommend you to the governor. At the very least, you will be promoted to the rank of lieutenant. The black-armored commander urged. Pigs and dogs do not know loyalty, but I, Huguang, have never dared to forget. When my protector battalion arrives, none of you will be able to escape. Huguang shouted coldly. Pigs and dogs? You don't know how to appreciate favors. That vile spawn must die today. Our exalted elders have set up a grand formation outside, so that not even the slightest bit of movement inside can leak out. The Lord Protector's battalion won't know about us. Just give up. I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to surrender or not? Surrender? Ha ha! My whole clan has always been loyal and righteous. No one has ever been afraid of death. Today, if I betray the country and surrender to you pigs and dogs, how can I face the world? How can I face my ancestors in the future? If you want to harm the Lord, you will have to step over my dead body. Huguang shouted. If you don't surrender, then die. The black-armored commander's eyes flashed fiercely, and the saber in his hand slashed at Huguang again. Boom! Huguang blocked the black-armored commander, but the silver-armored soldiers around him found it harder and harder to resist. Chapter 2. CI. 3 or 4 silver-armored guards were killed on the spot. As the battle progressed, the black-armored guards became even more ferocious. You want me, Huguang, to commit treason? Don't even think about it. Toxic Dragon Drill. Huguang's long spear suddenly emitted a silver light. Boom! Panic flashed in the eyes of the black-armored commander, and he immediately retreated 7 steps before stabilizing himself. Kill! Kill! Kill Huoguang! The black-armored commander flew into a rage out of humiliation. Clang! 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 5 members of the black-armored army joined the commander's battle group, suppressing Huoguang together. The silver-armored army was about to be completely annihilated, but no one gave in and continued to defend the bamboo house. There were 7 or 8 odd-job workers standing outside the main bamboo house. Their faces were pale and their bodies were trembling. The leader of the group was a middle-aged eunuch wearing an official's uniform. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand and looked anxious. At this moment, above the firmament, the 9th star finally moved to the line where the 8 stars were aligned. Boom! The 9 stars aligned pearls, and the heaven and earth suddenly resounded with a loud bang. 9 stars aligned, heaven's gate opened. Boom! Strong winds blew, and countless black clouds appeared in the sky. They stretched endlessly, and one could not see the end of them. Whoosh! Whoosh! As the dark clouds appeared, a large amount of rain fell from the sky. Under the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth, the soldiers in front of the bamboo hut did not pay attention to it at all. They thought that it was just a normal rain and continued to fight. The only difference was that the surroundings were darker, giving the silver-armored army a chance to catch their breath. All the silver armor guards swore to protect the bamboo house and the lord of the great Yin state inside the bamboo house. The middle-aged eunuch's face was filled with sorrow. Old Emperor, I beg your spirit in heaven to protect the Lord. The main door of the bamboo house was tightly shut. Inside, it was like a study room with 8 mahogany bookshelves filled with various books. In the middle of the room was a large mahogany desk with writing brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. 16 colored glaze oil lamps were lit all around, illuminating the interior of the bamboo house. On the east side was a wooden bed, and on the wooden bed was a 17 or 18-year-old youth. The young man was dressed in a gorgeous yellow robe embroidered with dragons. He lay there quietly, his face extremely pale. Large amounts of sweat seeped out of his forehead, as if he was in extreme pain. Buzz! A green light suddenly flashed across the young man's face, but it quickly disappeared. Then, the green light appeared again and again. The youth's sleep became more and more painful. Several hours had passed, but the youth's pain had not lessened. The moment the 9 stars aligned, a cold wind suddenly blew through the room. Boom! All of a sudden, the chilly wind was sucked into the young man's Tianmin acupoint on his forehead. Boom! His Tianmin acupoint suddenly exploded. A large amount of green light gushed out from the Tianmin acupoint and enveloped the youth's body. A tyrannical aura gushed out from the youth's body. The 16 flames in the room suddenly trembled. Suppressed by the aura, it felt as if it could be extinguished at any moment. Rumble! The young man's body let out a series of rumbling sounds. Roar! A dragon's roar suddenly came from the young man's body. The dragon's roar was loud, but strangely, no one in the outside world heard it. The aura emitted from the young man's body became stronger and stronger, and gradually soared into the sky. Through the bamboo house, it went straight into the sky. Boom! The dark clouds in the sky above the bamboo house were suddenly shattered by this powerful aura. The heavy rain also gradually dissipated. The dark cloud shattered, but high above the house, a dragon-shaped white cloud condensed. The dragon cloud circled around with 2 lofty horns, glaring angrily at the sky. Chapter 3. It was a pity that the sky had not yet brightened. The group of soldiers fighting did not notice the anomaly in the distant sky. Inside the room, the green light gradually retreated into the youth's body. The youth's eyes suddenly opened. Whoosh! 2 sharp lights shot out of the youth's eyes. Viciousness flashed through his eyes, and a gust of wind seemed to blow through the surroundings. However, the youth quickly adapted to the environment, and the presence he gave off slowly retreated into his body. The youth's gaze was very deep, very wise, and full of vicissitudes. It was not something a youth of 17 or 18 should have. There was a mirror near the head of the bed. The youth slowly walked in front of the mirror. Reaching out his arms, he looked at his hands and then touched his face in the mirror. Exactly the same. This appearance is exactly the same as my previous life. The youth narrowed his eyes and sighed. Finishing, the youth lifted his left sleeve. On his wrist, there was a seed-like birthmark. The middle finger of his right hand gently stroked the birthmark for a while. The youth's eyes narrowed slightly. Life-stealing birth? It was not in vain for Jean to open that immortal's tomb. Life-stealing birth? The secret method left behind by the immortal in the tomb is truly wondrous. Treasures in the immortal tomb? The youth seemed to think of some painful memory. His brow furrowed and viciousness flashed through his eyes. Looking around the study, the youth walked to the desk. There were dozens of brushes on the desk. The youth looked around and picked one of the brushes with a purple jade dragon carving. Dipping it in ink, the youth's eyes flashed with viciousness and his face was extremely dark. The brush in his hand started to write on the paper that had already been spread out. The youth's eyes were full of hatred and fury, but his hand was as steady as a mountain as he wrote stroke by stroke. Whoosh! Inside the room, a gust of wind suddenly blew. The wind quickly swept through every corner of the room. Large amounts of books were blown open by the wind, and some small objects were blown around by the wind. But strangely, the wind would always go around the oil lamps. Under the wind, the flames of the oil lamps were still there. The youth did not give off any presence. What caused the wind to blow in the room was the words written by the youth. It was just the first character, Jean. If a shioja that cultivated in calligraphy saw this, they would be shocked, because the young man's calligraphy had reached the realm of shocking the wind and rain. That was an extremely high level of calligraphy. Many cultivators might not be able to reach that level in their entire lives. This young man looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. When the brush falls, it shocks the wind and rain. The young man's calligraphy came from the calligraphy attainments of his previous life. It had nothing to do with his cultivation. The character Jean was a model for countless calligraphers in the world. Moreover, this character had the domineering aura of an emperor, making people feel intimidated. The word Jean took up half of the paper. On the other side, the young man wrote another word. Hero, Jean Xiong. With every stroke, the surrounding whirlwind grew stronger and stronger. When the last stroke of the word Xiong was completed, the purple jade brush in Xiao Chen's hand suddenly let out a crisp sound. Crack! A crack appeared on the purple jade brush. Crack! Crack! More and more cracks appeared. Boom! The purple jade brush turned into a handful of powder and was blown away by the surrounding whirlwind. While writing 2 words, the brush had shattered. If a shioja that cultivated in calligraphy saw this, they wouldn't know whether to praise the young man's calligraphy or feel pity for the poor quality of the brush. When a young man finished writing the 2 words, the surrounding whirlwind whistled and circled around the paper before rushing into the 2 words. Looking at the 2 black words, it was like looking at the abyss of hell. It was filled with hatred and anger. A large amount of negative emotions were written into the 2 words by the young man. Boom! The whirlwind was sucked into the 2 words. A large amount of black gas suddenly emerged from the 2 words. The black gas circled above the paper and gradually condensed into a black devil's head. Ha 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 ha! The devil's head had 2 horns. Its eyes were like the abyss, and its teeth were like saw teeth. It laughed evilly, eerily, and arrogantly. The young man stared at the ball of black gas from beginning to end. The character that I couldn't break through for 1,000 years was actually broken through because of you, Jin Xiong. The young man stared at the devil's head and said with hatred, looking at the devil's head that was written by his negative emotions, the hatred in the young man's eyes didn't decrease. Instead, his eyes gradually turned red. Zhenro is my empress. You are Zhenro's father. How can there be such a cruel father in the world? For that immortal sword, you didn't hesitate to deceive Zhenro and let her take the poison of the heavens with me. I could survive for 10 days, but Zhenro died on the spot. What a cruel father, what a vicious father. Zhenro is so kind. You don't deserve to be her father. That immortal sword from the Immortal's tomb may be powerful, but I didn't take a fancy to it. I have my own Emperor's sword. Just for that immortal sword, you poisoned your own daughter? Zhen Xiong? Haha, just you wait. When I come back to life, I will definitely cut open your stomach and dig out your heart. I will see what color your heart is and avenge Roer. The young man's eyes were filled with hostility. His ferocious aura was several times stronger than the devil's. It forced the devil's head back into the two words. A layer of black gas enveloped the paper. The cheapest piece of paper, after writing these two words, would be priceless. However, the young man picked up the paper and stretched it towards the oil lamp. Whoosh! The paper burned continuously. Ah! Spare me! Ah! The devil on the paper screamed again and again, but the young man's eyes were cold. He let the piece of rice paper turn into ashes. Zhen Xiong? The young man said the name fiercely again. After calming down, the young man began to sense his surroundings. He closed his eyes and raised his eyebrows slightly. Life-stealing derivation requires the realm of immortals to use. It is indeed true. Back then, before I became an immortal, I was about to die, so I had to take a gamble. If not for the 9 stars alignment and the opening of the gate of heaven, my will might have been trapped in this life's body forever. Finally, I came out. I don't know if my previous life's body is still lying in that coffin. In the future, I will return. The young man sighed. Taking a deep breath, the young man slowly walked towards the bamboo house. Creak! The door of the bamboo house was opened by the young man. Chapter 4. Kill. Second brother. You killed second brother. I'll kill you all. Those who stand in my way will die. Kill, kill, kill. Outside the bamboo house, shouts of killing filled the air. Blood splattered everywhere. Mud splashed everywhere. And a large number of corpses lay on the ground. More than half of the silver-armored soldiers were dead or injured, but they still defended the bamboo house. Huoguang and the black-armored commander's eyes were red from the killing. Both of them were injured, but the killing became more and more fierce. The servants outside the bamboo house were trembling, and the middle-aged eunuch was anxious. At this moment, a ray of sunlight appeared in the sky, instantly dispelling the surrounding darkness, making everyone feel at ease. The darkest moment before dawn had passed. Creak! The door of the bamboo house suddenly opened. Who? The middle-aged eunuch immediately turned his head. A yellow-robed young man with a pale face and a frail appearance slowly walked out. Lord! Lord! Quickly hide! Don't let the enemy see you! The middle-aged eunuch immediately shouted. The youth indifferently looked at the middle-aged eunuch and ignored him, continuing to watch the bloody scene. That bastard came out. Quickly, kill him together. A black-armored soldier's eyes lit up. The black-armored soldier's shout immediately attracted everyone's attention. Lord, quickly run. The silver-armored soldier, Jiaohu, shouted. Kill. The black-armored soldiers became more and more fierce. Lord, old slave, escort Lord out of here. The great Zheng country's consecrators have set up a formation here. As long as you rush out of the formation, you will be saved. Our monarch protector camp is outside. The middle-aged eunuch anxiously rushed forward. The youth's face did not show the panic that should have appeared. The youth looked at the crowd. His eyes were unfamiliar, but this did not hinder the youth from judging the situation. Formation? The youth indifferently said, Lord, if you don't leave now, it will be too late. The middle-aged eunuch, Jiaohu, said. The youth shook his head and turned his head to look around. His eyes slightly narrowed, and in a short while, the youth's gaze locked onto a bamboo forest. Staring in the direction of the bamboo forest, the young man's eyes turned incomparably cold. There were 2 men standing in the depths of the bamboo forest. One of them was dressed in luxurious clothes, and there was a hint of pride in his eyes as he stared gloomily in the direction of the bamboo house. The other was an ugly old man in a Taoist robe. There was a small flag in front of the old Taoist. His palms were emitting a faint yellow light, and he was constantly injecting the yellow light into the small flag. His eyes were full of self-satisfaction. Zhao, Tianda, if not for you, we wouldn't have found this place. The Yin Emperor would never have thought that it was your Yin state's Zhao family that wanted to kill this bastard. The old Taoist laughed evilly. Yin Emperor? He can't wait for this bastard to die as soon as possible. After all, this bastard's identity is too special, and his parents are already dead. Zhao Tianda sneered. This Valspawn has a strange background. If I were the Yin Emperor, I would also sentence him to death. However, this Valspawn has lived here for 7 years. The Yin Emperor has no excuse to kill him. The Yin Emperor is not worried, but your Zhao clan is? Ha ha ha. The old Taoist laughed evilly. Zhao Tianda looked at Consecrated Ma and smiled faintly. Don't worry, when my Zhao clan takes control of the Yin state, I will definitely fulfill my promise to you. The 16 cities in the southern border of the Yin state will not be short of a single piece of land. Haha, Zhao Tianda is the eldest son of a Zhao clan. Your words naturally represent the Zhao clan. I trust you. Consecrated Ma laughed evilly. To Consecrator Ma, whether or not Zhao Tianda kept his promise was not important. What was important was that the Yin state was becoming more and more chaotic. Chapter 5. That vile spawn is out, Zhao Tianda said immediately. Consecrator Ma looked over and said with disdain, So what if he's out? He's a dead man anyway. With this old man's array, the Lord Protector camp won't notice anything unusual here. No, that vile spawn is looking over. Zhao Tianda's expression changed. Impossible. How can a mortal see through my array? Consecrator Ma said in disbelief. However, Consecrator Ma suddenly felt like he was being stared at by a poisonous snake. All the hair on his back stood up. He looked at the young man at the entrance of the bamboo house in disbelief. The young man stared at Consecrator Ma. The array couldn't block his fierce gaze at all. When the two looked at each other, Consecrator Ma felt like a mountain was pressing down on him. What kind of gaze is that? Consecrator Ma said in shock. The young man's eyes widened, and a murderous aura shot out from his eyes. Others didn't notice it, but Consecrator Ma saw it clearly. When the young man glared, it was like the world was lit up. A vast intent rushed towards him. Intent. It was hidden in the soul and came from the eyes. It had nothing to do with cultivation. It came from a young man's experience in his previous life. Consecrator Ma seemed to have heard a loud dragon roar. The sound was so loud that Consecrator Ma's soul trembled and his mind was in a trance. He vaguely saw a vast golden dragon shoot out from the young man's eyes. The golden dragon glared, bared its fangs, and brandished its claws. It roared and rushed towards Consecrator Ma with an imposing manner as if the end of the world had arrived. Consecrator Ma was horrified. Under the powerful pressure of the dragon, Consecrator Ma's body stiffened and couldn't move. He allowed the vast golden dragon to rush towards him. Roar! The golden dragon roared and hit Consecrator Ma. Vaguely, a green light spread out from Consecrator Ma's body. The green light looked like Consecrator Ma's form. If any cultivator saw it, they would be horrified because the green light was Consecrator Ma's soul. A gaze? It destroyed Consecrator Ma's soul? How strong must one's willpower be in order to achieve this? What kind of person was this? Consecrator Ma's body went soft and lost consciousness. Consecrator Ma, what's wrong with you? Zhao Tianda exclaimed. The young man's glance was directed at Consecrator Ma. Naturally, the others couldn't feel the tremendous impact of his will, nor could they see the vast golden dragon formed by his will. Consecrator Ma's soul dissipated. He couldn't be any more dead. The grand formation that he was in charge of was also destroyed. The fog surrounding the bamboo forest dissipated in an instant. In front of the bamboo house, the young man's body shook slightly and his face turned pale. My body in this life is still too weak. The young man sighed. Lord, quickly follow the old slave. The middle-aged eunuch said anxiously. The young man shook his head because the crisis had been averted. Quick, enemy attack. Everyone, head to the bamboo house. Protect the Lord. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard from the depths of the bamboo forest. Outside the bamboo house, the faces of the black armored army, who originally held the absolute advantage, immediately changed. What's going on? The Lord Protector's camp is coming? A black armored army exclaimed. Brothers, our reinforcements are here. The reinforcements are here. A silver armored army shouted excitedly. The reinforcements are here? The formation is broken? Great, great. The middle-aged eunuch said excitedly. We're saved, we're saved. The crowd of odd job workers also came to their senses. How is this possible? He was an expert of level 6 of the power realm. How could a weak young man dodge his attack? Was this still a weak young man? In the next moment, the black-armored commander met the young man's eyes. Cold, extremely cold. The young man's gaze was as if he was looking at a dead man. Chapter 7. All the hair on the black-armored commander's body stood on end as a feeling of death filled his body. How is this possible? He is just a weak youth. His strength is only at the 3rd level. How can he give me such a feeling? Because the youth took a step forward, the two of them were too close to each other. The people behind couldn't see the youth's movements clearly, but the middle-aged eunuch at the side saw it clearly. The youth suddenly raised his right hand. His right hand formed a claw, and his fingertips emitted a trace of golden light. At an extremely fast speed, the claw pierced into the black-armored commander's throat. Tisk! Blood spurted out from the back of the youth's hand. The weak part of the human body, the throat, was pierced by the youth's claw. The black-armored commander immediately froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. Bang! The youth kicked the black-armored commander's stiff body and pushed him away. The black-armored commander seemed to have lost all his strength. He threw away his long knife and clutched his throat, looking at the youth with a horrified expression. The youth's face was still cold, but in the palm of his right hand there was a bloody object, a section of the throat. The youth's claw tore off the black-armored commander's throat. Almost all the surrounding soldiers felt their scalps go numb. Was this still a vile spawn that was casually slaughtered? Looking at the hole in the commander's throat, the black-armored soldiers instantly lost all their will to fight. Run quickly. The black-armored soldiers fled with a loud bang. Release the arrows. The soldiers of the Protector camp shouted from afar. Shio! 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 A series of long arrows were shot from afar. Immediately, more than half of the black-armored soldiers were hit. Of course, most of the arrows were aimed at their feet. Therefore, the arrows didn't kill them. In the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 soldiers arrived and captured the fleeing and injured black-armored soldiers with lightning speed. Your humble servant came late to protect you. Lord, please punish us. After capturing the black-armored soldiers, the soldiers quickly apologized. Huoguang did not protect you, Lord. Please punish us. Huoguang also quickly knelt down on one knee. In a moment, other than the black-armored soldiers who were still chasing and guarding the black-armored soldiers, all the soldiers outside the bamboo house knelt down on one knee and apologized. Protect me? The youth's eyes narrowed. Protector was a term that was only used on emperors. His identity in this life was that of the Lord. So why would he use the term protector? Lord, have you forgotten what happened in the past? The middle-aged eunuch suddenly asked. Oh, the youth looked at the middle-aged eunuch. Yes, it's the 9th day of the 9th month again. Lord, the old slave has been ordered to take care of the Lord. This is already the 7th year. Every year on the 9th day of the 9th month, the Lord will lose his memories and forget everything in the past. The old slave will convey the memories of the past. The middle-aged eunuch said respectfully. Amnesia once a year on the 9th of September? The young man's expression changed, and he immediately understood the reason. The will of his previous life that existed in his Tianmen acupoint would attempt to break through the Tianmen acupoint on the 9th day of the 9th month. The will of his previous life was so strong that it couldn't be compared to the will of his current life. Therefore, every year, the memories of his current life would fade away. Now, all the memories of this life have been washed away. Lord, your name is Yin Chuan. The middle-aged eunuch said respectfully. Yin Chuan. The youth repeated the name. After a moment of silence, the youth finally nodded and said, If that's the case, then from now on, I will be called Yin Chuan." The youth accepted the name of his current life. The lord is the most respected lord in the great Yin state. The title is equal to the king. His position is equal to the emperor. The middle-aged eunuch said seriously. The title is equal to the king. Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. As an emperor in his previous life, Yin Chuan understood that there couldn't be two suns in the sky and two emperors in a country. The emperor was the head of the country, and no one could compare to him. The dignity of an emperor couldn't be trampled on. The title is equal to the king? Ridiculous. How could there be such a title? Chapter 8. While Yin Chuan was sizing up the crowd, an arrogant shout came from afar. Several soldiers were escorting a man in a luxurious robe. "What are you doing?" "I am a young master of the Zhao clan. I am Zhao Tianda. Are you blind? Let me go, or I will kill your entire clan." Zhao Tianda shouted arrogantly at the soldiers, but the soldiers did not let him go even though their faces were ugly. They forcefully escorted him to the bamboo house. The soldiers behind him brought consecrated Ma's body and 8 banners. "What is your name?" "I will kill your entire clan," Zhao Tianda said arrogantly. Yin Chuan looked at the arrogant Zhao Tianda and narrowed his eyes. "Kill my entire clan? Who gave you the right?" Yin Chuan said coldly. After understanding his status, Yin Chuan immediately used the situation to confirm his identity. Although Yin Chuan was disgusted by the name, he would not object to it being used on himself. His status was the same as the Yin Emperor, so he was also the ruler of country. The law was the most important thing in a country. It could not be violated. The first of 100 crimes was the execution of the entire clan. Only by harming the imperial power could one be sentenced to the execution of the entire clan. Moreover, this crime could only be committed by the emperor. In the Yin state, only the Yin emperor and now Yin Chuan had the right to commit such a crime. A young master of the Zhao clan? Even the head of the Zhao clan did not have the right. Yin Chuan's words immediately attracted Zhao Tianda's attention. "Ah, bastard. Yin Chuan, you know who I am. You better let me go now, and I can pretend that nothing happened," Zhao Tianda said arrogantly. "Lord, the Zhao clan is one of the biggest clans in the Yin state. The head of the Zhao clan is a prince with a different surname. He has a high position and even controls 30% of the Yin state's army. Moreover, most of the army is stationed not far away. This Zhao Tianda is a marquis in the Yin state." The middle-aged eunuch immediately explained. "Haha, I remember now. You haven't recovered from your soulless disease. You lose your memory once a year. Now you know who I am, right? Hurry up and let me go. Otherwise, my Zhao family's great army will definitely flatten this place," Zhao Tianda said arrogantly. Yin Chuan looked coldly at Zhao Tianda and interrupted in a deep voice, "Marquis Di Hao?" As an official of Great Yin, he dared to look down on the Tian family. "Hua Guang, execute him." "Yes." Hua Guang, who was kneeling on one knee, immediately stood up. Clenching his fist, Hua Guang stepped forward. "What are you doing? Whoever dares to hit me, I'll exterminate their 9 generations," Zhao Tianda said with bloodshot eyes. "Pa!" A bright red palm print appeared on Zhao Tianda's face. "You dare to hit me?" Smack! 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 Yin Chuan didn't stop him. Hua Guang continued to slap Zhao Tianda. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Tianda's face was swollen. He couldn't speak clearly and was terrified. "Don't hit me, don't hit me." Zhao Tianda immediately begged for mercy. Smack! 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 Hua Guang didn't stop at all. "I beg you, don't hit me. My teeth are falling out. Don't hit me." Yin Chuan looked coldly at Zhao Tianda. Zhao Tianda's previous arrogance was completely beaten down. He couldn't escape and immediately began to beg for mercy in fear. "Stop," Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Hua Guang immediately stopped. Zhao Tianda stumbled and covered his face, looking at Hua Guang in horror. Only when the slapping ended did he put down his hand. However, his face was already swollen beyond recognition. While frightened, he looked at Hua Guang with hatred. Yin Chuan looked at the old Taoist's body that was scattered by his will. His gaze was cold. "Speak. Why did you harm me? Tell me everything." Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 9. I was bewitched by the Zheng dynasty's people. I was deceived. Lord, please spare my life. Zhao Tianda learned his lesson and immediately said. Yin Chuan stared at Zhao Tianda and sneered. You still want to deceive me at this point? Do you think I'm that easy to deceive? Break his arm. Yes. Hua Guang answered. No. Zhao Tianda exclaimed. Crack. Zhao Tianda's right arm was broken by Hua Guang. Ah. Zhao Tianda screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Speak. Yin Chuan coldly shouted. Zhao Tianda's eyes were no longer filled with hatred, but with fear. Devil. This Yin Chuan is a devil, a devil. Speak. Hua Guang also shouted. Zhao Tianda quivered, but he still gritted his teeth and said, Every word I said is true, every word. Ah, I hate it when people lie to me, especially people like you. Since you still don't want to speak the truth, Hua Guang, pull out his tongue. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Pull out his tongue? Zhao Tianda's eyes suddenly widened. In his heart, a voice kept saying, Who doesn't dare, he doesn't dare. But why would Hua Guang care about him? He reached out and pinched Zhao Tianda's chin, while his other hand reached out to grab Zhao Tianda's tongue. I'll speak, I'll speak, Zhao Tianda exclaimed in horror. Zhao Tianda understood that Yin Chuan was serious. If he continued to lie, his life would end here. Yin Chuan gently waved his hand, while Hua Guang stood to the side in admiration. Hua Guang's eyes lit up. When he was sent here to protect Yin Chuan, although Hua Guang didn't say it, he still panicked in his heart. After all, if he protected Yin Chuan, his future would come to an end. But Yin Chuan's methods today gave Hua Guang hope. Which man in this world doesn't want to make a name for himself? Speak, Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yes, the Dezheng country's consecrated elders brought the army into the Forbidden Forest. The family had decided to use this opportunity to unite with the Dezheng country's consecrated elders to kill you. I am just a guide, Zhao Tianda said, trembling. Why? Yin Chuan was puzzled. This is the family head's decision, because you're the emperor equal to one. You are the Yin clan's bloodline, Zhao Tianda said while trembling. Yin clan bloodline? In that case, your Zhao family wants to usurp the throne? Yin Chuan said coolly. With Yin Chuan's wisdom as a former emperor, he immediately realized the key point. If the Yin emperor's bloodline was wiped out, then he would be the rightful successor of Great Yin. So, if he killed him now, he would cut off Great Yin's escape route and shift the blame to Great Zheng, which would confuse the Yin emperor even more. Moreover, Zhao Tianda's death might be something the Yin emperor would be happy to see. After all, his identity was too special. Usurp the throne? The soldiers were shocked. The Zhao family has wild ambitions. No, Zhao Tianda said while trembling. Yin Chuan naturally would not listen to Zhao Tianda's argument. Instead, he asked again, the Zheng country's consecrated elders? Why would they appear here? I don't know. Zhao Tianda shook his head. Huh? Yin Chuan's face darkened. I really don't know. But I heard that the Yin state's consecrated elders will be here soon. Not only the consecrated elders, even the immortal sex people might be here. I really don't know anything else. Zhao Tianda hurriedly said everything. Yin Chuan looked at Zhao Tianda and was silent for a while, digesting this information. Lord, I was confused. Please let me go. Zhao Tianda suddenly shouted. Lord, how should we deal with this person? Hua Guang asked respectfully. Chapter 10. Looking at Zhao Tianda, Yin Chuan's expression was cold and solemn. He said indifferently, You despised the heavens, betrayed the country, and attempted to assassinate me. Your crimes are unforgivable. Since you cooperated, I will leave your corpse intact and grant you death. Grant him death. These two words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Zhao Tianda to feel dizzy. He originally wanted to lower his attitude and drag out an ignoble existence. When he was free in the future, he would lead the Zhao family army to exterminate the Yin clan and return today's humiliation 100-fold. Who would have thought that Yin Chuan would be so ruthless? You can't kill me. You can't kill me. I am the young master of the Zhao family. I am the young master of the Zhao family. If you kill me, the Zhao family will rebel. My grandfather won't let you off. Don't kill me. I can give you a lot of money. A lot, Zhao Tianda said incoherently. Yin Chuan ignored him and looked at Hua Guang. Yes, Hua Guang replied. TSK. The long spear instantly pierced through Zhao Tianda's throat. Woo-woo. Zhao Tianda's eyes widened. He cried out in disbelief and fell to the ground dead. The surrounding army was silent. No one dared to raise their heads, but their hearts were in turmoil. This was the first time they saw Yin Chuan's methods. It was extremely shrewd and ruthless. As for the imprisoned black armored army, they were all trembling in fear. Lord Zhao Tianda is dead, Hua Guang said respectfully. Looking at Zhao Tianda's corpse, Yin Chuan said indifferently, "Send this corpse to the imperial capital and hand it over to Yin Emperor." Yes, Hua Guang said respectfully. Send the corpse to the imperial capital? No one understood the purpose. Wasn't this superfluous? But no one dared to say anything. Will there be compensation for the casualties? Yin Chuan looked at Hua Guang. Yes, the families of the dead will receive 300 taels of silver. Hua Guang said. Looking at the corpses, Yin Chuan shook his head and said, "These people died to protect me. The compensation for each family will be increased by 5 times. Who? Everyone raised their heads in surprise. However, his heart was abruptly burning with passion. Yes, Hua Guang shouted. Hua Guang shouted loudly, sending off these fallen brothers. He was moved by Yin Chuan's reward for the army. Clean up the surroundings, lock them up, and interrogate the black armored army about Zheng's consecrator's visit, Yin Chuan said. As you command, Hua Guang replied respectfully. As for this dead Zheng dynasty consecrator, search his body first. Wait for me to come out and deal with him, Yin Chuan said. Yes, rise, Yin Chuan said to the kneeling soldiers. Thank you, Lord. The soldiers stood up one after another. Yin Chuan also turned around and walked towards the bamboo house. The rest of the matters were left to Hua Guang. Lord, the middle-aged eunuch immediately ordered the servants to bring a few basins of clean water for Yin Chuan to clean the bloodstains on his hands. Yin Chuan washed his hands and ordered, I will rest for a while. No one is allowed to disturb me. Yes, the middle-aged eunuch replied respectfully. Yin Chuan walked back to the bamboo house and closed the door. The middle-aged eunuch personally stood guard outside the bamboo house and watched as Hua Guang ordered the soldiers to quickly clean up the surroundings. The middle-aged eunuch sighed and said, Old Emperor, the Lord has finally grown up. Your soul in heaven can rest in peace now. Inside the bamboo house, Yin Chuan returned to his chair and sat cross-legged. He slightly adjusted his breathing and felt his body. After about 2 hours, Yin Chuan's face slowly became rosy. He opened his eyes and stretched out his arms. Looking at his palms, a faint golden light shone from them. Third tier of the strength realm? Or is it too weak? Only the strength of 9 bulls? It seems that it will take a long time to return to the strength of my previous life. Yin Chuan sighed slightly. As he spoke, Yin Chuan squinted his eyes and said, When I return to the peak, Zhan Xiong, you should have reached the immortal realm with that immortal sword, right? I will come and find you. In this life, I will create an even stronger imperial court than my previous life. I will overcome the heavenly tribulation and reach the immortal realm. I will cut open your chest and take your heart and lungs. Chapter 11. When I return to my peak, Zhan Xiong, you should have entered the immortal realm with that sword of yours, right? I will come and find you. In this life, I will create an even stronger imperial court than in my previous life. I will overcome the heavenly tribulation and reach the immortal realm. I will cut open your chest and take your heart and lungs. Go. While Yin Chuan was swearing to take revenge, his stomach suddenly growled. Looking at his stomach, Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. I haven't felt hungry in a long time. The strength realm is the most basic realm. One must eat a lot of meat to increase their strength. Strength realm? Luckily, My status in this life is not low. I was born with a lot of meat, but I don't know what grade it is. Yin Chuan stood up and smoothed out the creases on his clothes. He opened the bamboo door again and slowly walked out. The large number of corpses had been cleaned up. A group of servants were waiting on both sides. Greetings to the Lord, everyone said respectfully. I'm hungry. Serve the feast. Right here, Yin Chuan said calmly. Yes, the middle-aged eunuch said immediately. Then, he quickly ordered the servants to bring in a luxurious table and chairs. Dishes were also served. During this time, Yin Chuan took a look at consecrated Ma's corpse. Lord, I have searched this corpse. Other than a bottle of pills and these 8 banners, there is nothing else. Hua Guang respectfully handed over a small bottle and 8 banners. Yin Chuan took the small bottle and sniffed it. Fasting pill? It's not a good pill. It can't increase strength by much. 1 pill can at most keep you hungry for 15 days. Yin Chuan said calmly. Fasting pill? Hua Guang's eyes lit up. 1 pill can keep you hungry for 15 days? This was an extremely luxurious item for a soldier. In war, food was often needed. If there was a fasting pill, wouldn't the army be invincible? Unfortunately, there were too few fasting pills. Hua Guang estimated that there were less than 30 pills. This was not the reason why Hua Guang was so excited. The reason why he was excited was that the Lord had recognized him at a glance. Yin Chuan paid no attention to Hua Guang. Instead, he flipped through the 8 banners. Looking at the banner, Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows and said, Ice silk? Good material, but it's a pity that it's been wasted into such a crude product. Hua Guang stood at the side and watched, his eyes filled with curiosity. Each of Yin Chuan's words seemed to have a great magical power, attracting Hua Guang and making Hua Guang's heart beat wildly. Yin Chuan glanced at Hua Guang, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Lord, you may begin the feast. The middle-aged eunuch walked over and said respectfully. Yin Chuan nodded. He placed the fasting pills and the 8 banners on the table, flicked the corner of his robe, and sat down. Hua Guang, the middle-aged eunuch, and a group of servants stood respectfully at the side, waiting for Yin Chuan. There were 8 dishes on the table, all of which were meat. Yin Chuan was satisfied. He picked up the jade chopsticks, picked up the meat, and started eating. After taking a bite, Yin Chuan frowned and asked, Lord, this is deer meat. The Lord Protector's camp just got it not long ago. The middle-aged eunuch said. Yin Chuan nodded. It was not that Yin Chuan could not recognize the meat. The main thing was that the deer meat did not satisfy Yin Chuan. The middle-aged eunuch continued to pick up other meat dishes and introduce them again. Deer meat, wolf meat, beef, only this meat? Yin Chuan asked in a deep voice. Lord, these are the best meat dishes. The middle-aged eunuch said immediately. No demonic beast meat. Yin Chuan asked. Demonic beast? I heard that His Majesty went hunting 2 years ago. 500 palace guards only managed to kill an injured old demonic beast. We are only mortals. How can we catch a demonic beast? The middle-aged eunuch shook his head. Chapter 12. Yin Chuan pondered and said, Since that's the case, using ordinary meat to increase my strength will take a long time. Moreover, I will need to eat a lot. That's right. Right now, I need to eat half a cow a day before I can continue my cultivation. Hua Guang said from the side. Yin Chuan nodded, but the jade chopsticks in his hand did not stop. He continued to eat the cooked meat. Although his speed was very fast, in the eyes of the others, he was so elegant that it made them feel strange. Pieces of meat turned into streams of strength and were absorbed into Yin Chuan's body. Yin Chuan only put down the jade chopsticks when all 8 plates of meat were finished. The servants quickly removed the food and replaced it with tea for Yin Chuan. After the servants left, only Hua Guang and the old eunuch were left. What's your name? Yin Chuan looked at the middle-aged eunuch and asked. Old slave Lu Jin. The middle-aged eunuch said respectfully. Lu Jin, tell me about my situation. Yin Chuan asked calmly. Yes, the Lord is the king of the Yin state. This title of king comes from your father, the old emperor. The old emperor is Yin Tao. He was the emperor of the Yin state 300 years ago. Later, he entered the Immortal sect by chance and gave the throne to his younger brother. He lowered his status to the king of the Yin state and no longer managed the Yin state. However, he still had the power of a monarch in the Great Yin state. Later, under the protection of the old emperor, the Great Yin state stood strong for 300 years. Lu Jin said solemnly, "So, this Yin dynasty originally belonged to my father?" Yin Chuan asked in a low voice. Since he had accepted his identity in this life, Yin Chuan also accepted his blood relatives. Yes, because of the old emperor, no one dared to touch the Great Yin dynasty. The old emperor would occasionally return to the Yin state. 7 years ago, the old emperor handed you over to the old slave. At that time, the Lord asked the old slave to look after the Lord when you were 10 years old. Moreover, he asked you to inherit the old emperor's title of king. He also asked us to stay away from the circle of power. So we moved here and lived for 7 years. Lu Jin said respectfully, "You have been taking care of me for 7 years?" Yin Chuan asked. "Yes," Lu Jin said solemnly. Hearing this, Yin Chuan's gaze on Lu Jin softened. "Why did my father choose you back then?" Yin Chuan thought for a while and asked. Lu Jin reminisced for a while. Tears welled up in her eyes as she said, "The old slave came from a poor family. His parents were forced to death by bullies, and his meager property was robbed by bullies. The old slave was reduced to a beggar. On a snowy day, he almost starved to death in the snow. It was the old emperor who passed by and saved the old slave. Then, the old slave took care of the bullies and avenged his family. Unfortunately, the old slave was born a natural eunuch. Therefore, the old slave was sent to the imperial palace. The old slave was deeply grateful to the old emperor. Perhaps this was a reason why the old emperor chose the old slave." Yes. Yin Chuan looked at Lu Jin with a much gentler gaze. The old slave stayed in the imperial palace for 15 years, until one day the old emperor suddenly descended from the sky and brought you, the Lord. The Lord should have been with the old emperor before he was 10 years old. After he was 10 years old, he lived here. So, Lu Jin recalled. What happened after that? Yin Chuan asked. After that, the old emperor left. After a year, the old emperor's immortal sect sent news that the old emperor was dead. Lu Jin said sadly. "Oh, how'd he die?" Yin Chuan's face fell. "I don't know. But when the old emperor entrusted you, the Lord, to the old slave, it seemed that he already knew the result. He also told the old slave that when you, the Lord, were 18 years old, the immortal sect would send someone to bring you back to the immortal sect. He asked the old slave to take good care of him." Lu Jin said respectfully. Chapter 13. Hua Guang's eyes lit up. Enter the immortal sect? 18 years old? Bring me to the immortal sect? Yin Chuan frowned. Yes. Lu Jin said affirmatively. Lord, you are someone who is destined to become an immortal. If you have the chance in the future, you must find the culprit and avenge the old emperor. Lu Jin's eyes turned red instantly. I will. Yin Chuan nodded affirmatively. Father, since you have entered the immortal sect, why don't you strengthen the Yin kingdom? A strong Yin kingdom might not be worse than staying in the immortal sect. Yin Chuan was puzzled. Lu Jin was surprised. Hua Guang was also surprised. Lord, although the country is big, it can't be compared to the immortal sect. If the immortal sect wants to destroy the country, it is too easy. No matter how strong the Yin kingdom is, it will be useless. I have never heard of a country that can fight against the immortal sect. Lu Jin said strangely. Oh, Yin Chuan was surprised. Yin Chuan was the ruler of a country in his previous life. Under his rule, except for some big sacred grounds, the small immortal sects were nothing to him. But what was going on now? Had the country become a weak group? Had the world changed? Yin Chuan didn't ask any more questions. After all, Lu Jin was just an ordinary person and couldn't know too much. If that's the case, I will leave these fasting pills in your care for the time being. And these 8 banners, take them apart, take out the white silk, and weave them into cloth again. Yin Chuan said, Yes. Lu Jin said immediately. From the conversation just now, Yin Chuan could tell that Lu Jin was at least someone who could be trusted. What is your cultivation level now? Yin Chuan asked. Old slave's aptitude is not good enough. I have just reached tier 4 of the power realm. Lu Jin said shamefully. Poor aptitude? Don't worry. As long as you have enough resources, you can also become an expert. Cultivate well in the future. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Lu Jin replied immediately. Turning his head, Yin Chuan looked at Huoguang. Huoguang? I've seen your loyalty just now. Introduce yourself. Yin Chuan said. At this moment, Huoguang's heart was burning with passion. The resentment of not being able to achieve his goals in the past had completely dissipated. Yes, your humble servant is Huoguang, the descendant of one of the great contributors to the founding of the Great Yin dynasty. Unfortunately, until today, I'm the only one left. I inherited the title of Marquis of the God of War, and I used to fight in the front line. 7 years ago, I formed the Lord Protector Battalion to protect the Lord. We are only under the control of the Lord, and do not care about any other military orders. Huoguang said solemnly. 7 years ago, you were transferred here. Do you have any complaints? Yin Chuan smiled faintly. Huoguang frowned slightly. Gritting his teeth, he finally took a deep breath and said, Huoguang was ostracized because I offended my superior in the past. At first, your humble servant had some complaints. But now, your humble servant has none. Oh, why not now? Yin Chuan smiled faintly. Your humble servant thinks that the Lord can give your humble servant what he wants. Huoguang did not hide anything. Ha ha, good. I like your honesty. You have also shown your loyalty before. As long as you have the ability, I will not be stingy with what you deserve. Yin Chuan smiled. Yes, thank you, the Lord. Huoguang bowed. As long as you remain loyal and have the ability, I can guarantee you that you will get more than you can imagine. Much more. Not only in the secular world, I can even lead you into the world of cultivation and make a name for yourself there. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Thump. Huoguang suddenly knelt down on one knee. Thank you, the Lord. Huoguang will not let the Lord down. Huoguang said excitedly. Enter the world of cultivation? Is this possible? Huoguang felt a strong sense of excitement. Yes. Now, do your best to break through the realm of cultivation. Break through from the realm of strength to the realm of essence and refine the essence. That is the beginning of entering the world of cultivation. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes. Huoguang said respectfully. The world of cultivation is a long road. Refining strength into essence, refining essence into qi, refining qi into spirit, and so on. Fighting against the heavens and fighting against people is a long road. Do not slack off. If you slack off, all your previous efforts will be wasted. Take care of yourself. Yin Chuan said lightly. Yes, I will not disappoint the Lord. Huoguang said solemnly. Get up and tell me about the assassination. Yin Chuan said lightly. Yes. At this moment, Huoguang's body seemed to be full of energy. The Lord, the black armored army, has been locked up. The area where the great Jing's consecrators are stationed has been found. It is at the top of the Jade Cloud Mountain, about 30 li northeast. At the same time, 10,000 soldiers have been brought to search for something. Huoguang said, Oh, who are the consecrators? Consecrators are usually experts at LV10 of the Strength Realm. They have cultivated some pseudo-profound qi and can control some Dharma artifacts. However, it is difficult for them to break through in their lifetime. That is why they are living a comfortable life in various dynasties and become consecrators. Take Consecrator Ma, for example. Although he is strong, he does not dare to fight against the Lord Protector camp. If 3,000 Lord Protector camp soldiers shoot arrows at him at the same time, he may not be able to escape. That is why he was led by Zhao Tianda to set up a formation to assassinate the Lord secretly. Yes, unfortunately, for some reason, he suddenly died. Huoguang felt strange. How many more consecrators are there in the Jade Cloud Mountain? Yin Chuan asked. There are 4 more consecrators. One of them is the great consecrator of the great Zheng. Hua Guang said, "Oh, since they're all at LV10 of the strength realm, where did the title of great consecrator come from?" Yin Chuan asked curiously. "The great Zheng's great consecrator? He is accompanied by a demonic beast," Hua Guang said with a frown. "Demonic beast?" Yin Chuan's eyes lit up. "Yes, it is a demonic beast. I heard that it is a big snake. Generally speaking, only beasts that have reached the essence realm and have cultivated profound qi can be called demonic beasts." Essence realm? With a snake accompanying him, the great consecrator's position is natural, Hua Guang said with a little worry. "Demonic beast? Huh." Yin Chuan's eyes lit up. Lord? What do you mean?" Hua Guang looked at Yin Chuan with a little curiosity. Yin Chuan smiled faintly and said, "I want to eat a snake." Chapter 14. Lord? What do you mean?" Hua Guang looked curiously at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan smiled faintly and said, "I want to eat a snake." "Ah." Hua Guang's face changed. "What, you don't dare?" Yin Chuan said faintly. No, it's just that." Hua Guang didn't know how to answer. Snake? That wasn't an ordinary snake, but a monster. It was a powerful existence that had cultivated the essence of life. Legend has it that the snake's poisonous smoke could kill hundreds of experts in an instant. And suddenly, Hua Guang saw Yin Chuan's eyes. Yin Chuan was looking at Hua Guang with a scrutinizing gaze. Hua Guang's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have thought of something. He took a deep breath and said, "The Lord's order. Your humble servant will not shirk it." At this moment, Yin Chuan's eyes revealed a trace of satisfaction. In a country, the strength of the emperor wasn't enough. It needed the support of a generation of heroes to conquer the world. Hua Guang was only in his 30s. In Yin Chuan's eyes, he was still too young. However, Hua Guang had qualities that Yin Chuan appreciated. Loyalty. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sworn to protect the bamboo house. Bravery. It could be seen from the fact that the Black Armor commander could suppress the same level of cultivation. Not only could he suppress the same level of cultivation, he could also fight 1 against 7. Charisma. Without a strong charisma, the silver-armored army wouldn't die with Hua Guang in the face of death. This was the potential of a fierce general. Hua Guang still lacked the means and the confidence to look down on everything. Moreover, the vision of mortals was too narrow. However, none of this mattered. As long as Hua Guang was willing to learn, Yin Chuan wouldn't be stingy with his guidance. This was because Yin Chuan needed all kinds of capable people to establish his country in the future. With a faint smile, Yin Chuan said calmly, "It's just a refined level demon beast. Let me digest the meat I just ate, then I'll follow you up the mountain. Let's check out the terrain first." "Yes," Hua Guang replied respectfully. Hua Guang and the middle-aged eunuch went to eat first, while Yin Chuan started practicing martial arts alone in the courtyard in front of the bamboo house. Yin Chuan's punches were very slow. It was a fist technique created in his previous life called Heavenly Dragon Force. This was the most basic cultivation method. After refining it, one would obtain the power of the Heavenly Dragon, which was vast and boundless. Boom! Boom! Punches after punches were thrown out, and faint sounds of the air breaking could be heard. He had just eaten a large amount of meat, and while he was practicing his fist art, his stamina was rapidly depleted, but at the same time, his stamina was also rapidly increasing. After a set of Heavenly Dragon Force, Yin Chuan's body was covered in sweat. During this time, Yin Chuan and Lu Jin came over again. Seeing Yin Chuan practicing his fist art, Lu Jin was puzzled. Lu Jin had never seen Yin Chuan practice this set of fist art before. "Go boil some hot water, so that the Lord can bathe and change his clothes," Lu Jin said to a servant in a deep voice. "Yes." The servant at the side quickly retreated. Hua Guang, who was at level 6 of the strength realm, had a flash of light in his eyes. In Hua Guang's eyes, although Yin Chuan's fist art was very slow, so slow that anyone could learn it, Hua Guang knew that no one would be able to learn it. Hua Guang could feel the flow of air following Yin Chuan's fist. This was fist intent. There was no way to learn it. Hua Guang felt that among all the people he had met, No one had a stronger fist intent than the Lord. Was the Lord really only at level 3 of the strength realm? Boom! When the last punch was thrown out, it was as if a gentle breeze had blown past, blowing the bamboo, leaves not far away. At this moment, Yin Chuan finally stopped. Lord, did the old emperor teach you this before you were 10 years old? Lu Jin asked in surprise. I suddenly remembered some of the techniques from the past. Yin Chuan said ambiguously. Chapter 15. Immediately, Huaguang and Lu Jin looked at him enviously. The old emperor was like a deity. How could his martial arts be bad? Lord, the hot water is ready. Please take a bath and change your clothes. Lu Jin said again. Okay. Yin Chuan nodded. After finishing his training, Yin Chuan took a good bath. His whole body felt refreshed. Unfortunately, he was still at LV3 of the power realm. Cultivation was not something that could be broken through by eating meat and practicing martial arts. Walking out of the bamboo house, Huaguang had been waiting for a long time. Behind him stood 20 silver armor guards. Lord, everyone said respectfully. Okay, let's go up the mountain. Yin Chuan said calmly. Yes, everyone answered. Next to the bamboo house was a tall mountain. The 20 silver armor guards cleared the weeds. Huaguang and Lu Jin followed behind, Yin Chuan respectfully and slowly up the mountain. The mountain was 200 feet high, but it was nothing for the experts. Soon, they arrived at the top of the mountain. Everyone stood behind Yin Chuan and stood on top of a large rock. Standing at the top of the mountain, Yin Chuan's field of vision suddenly widened. Lord, that is Emerald Cloud Mountain. The great Zheng's offerings are on that mountain. Huaguang pointed at a mountain in the distance. Because of the distance, the mountain looked small. However, Yin Chuan knew that the mountain should be much bigger than the one he was standing on. Okay, Yin Chuan nodded. However, Yin Chuan did not pay attention to Emerald Cloud Mountain for too long. Instead, he raised his eyebrows and looked around. Yin Chuan was slightly surprised. In the south, dozens of miles away, there was an endless fog that covered the entire forest. Dark clouds were rolling in the sky, covering a large area in the south. It was gloomy. This is... Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Lord, this is the Forbidden Forest. It is a land of death. Many people went in to investigate, but no one came out. When my dynasty was founded, it was already here. Even when my dynasty sent a large army in, they never returned. Therefore, very few people dare to enter. Lu Jin said respectfully. Feng Shui Formation? It's actually a Feng Shui Formation. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Feng Shui Formation? Lord, what is a Feng Shui Formation? Huaguang asked curiously, looking at the crowd. Yin Chuan was originally going to be groomed, so he did not hide anything. In your hearts, are those immortal sects all the same? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. This subordinate does not know, but should be about the same. Huaguang was puzzled. Shaking his head, Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Immortal sect? It's just a general term for the mortal world. Immortal? It's not that easy to become an immortal. The immortal sects you speak of are mostly mortal cultivator sections. There are 5 types of cultivation in the world. Oh, Huaguang immediately perked up. 1 is life, 2 is luck, 3 is feng shui, 4 is yin virtue, and 5 is reading. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Lord, reading? What's the use of reading so much? Huaguang was puzzled. Reading? Don't look down on the study of cultivation. Some great scholars are filled with righteous energy. Their words can kill thousands of demons and devils. Some people who have mastered the art of calligraphy can write out an army of thousands of men and horses with a single stroke. The army can come out of their pen and ink and destroy everything. Yin Chuan explained. You can write an army with a pen and ink? Isn't that more powerful than the legendary bean soldiers? Huaguang was surprised. Bean soldiers? That's just a small path. Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Yes. Huaguang's face twitched. That's just a small path? Then what is yin virtue? Huaguang asked again. Yin virtue. It's similar to Buddhism and Taoism. They cultivate by collecting immeasurable merit. You'll come into contact with it in the future. Yin Chuan said calmly. Yes. Huoguang nodded respectfully. As for feng shui cultivators, they travel the earth in search of dragon veins to cultivate. The feng shui formation they set up is extremely strange. It's both real and illusory. It's very different from ordinary formations. Moreover, powerful feng shui masters can even use dragon veins to connect the two realms of yin and yang. Yin Chuan explained. Connect the two realms of yin and yang? Feng shui cultivators? Huoguang exclaimed. Feng shui cultivators are mainly feng shui cultivators. They can deduce the heavenly secrets, divine the signs of the stars, and predict good and bad luck. Some of them are strong enough to disrespect the heavens. They can even arrange the stars, disrupt the heavenly secrets, and cause the world to move in reverse. Yin Chuan explained. This. Huoguang's heart thumped wildly. Feng shui cultivator? Arrange the stars, disrupt the heavenly secrets? This ability made Huoguang's heart skip a beat. Then what about feng shui? Huoguang suppressed his astonishment and asked. Feng shui? Yin Chuan glanced at Huoguang and said calmly. Feng shui cultivator, don't ask. That's not something you can get involved in. Yes. Huoguang immediately acknowledged in his heart. Lu Jin and the 20 silver armor guards were also shocked. At the same time, everyone swallowed their saliva. Their hearts were filled with desire. The path of cultivation is extremely difficult. You need to be careful at every step. At the same time, you need to have a strong heart to sort out the distracting thoughts in your heart. Yin Chuan said calmly. Hearing Yin Chuan's words, everyone's expression changed. Yes, thank you, Lord. Everyone said respectfully. Did Yin Chuan mean to lead everyone on the path of cultivation? This was a rare opportunity. How could they let it go? Looking at everyone, Yin Chuan nodded. Yin Chuan was sure that everyone was more loyal than before. Relying on loyalty to win over subordinates was far from enough. Apart from loyalty, they also needed to weave a dream for their subordinates. Looking at the feng shui formation in the distance again, Yin Chuan might not be a feng shui cultivator, but as an emperor in his previous life, he was not unfamiliar with feng shui. At the very least, Yin Chuan could recognize some of the basic things. Dragon vein? How many dragon veins are gathered here? There's actually a small dragon vein squeezed out? Yin Chuan said in surprise. Lord, what did you say? Huoguang asked. Over there, in the west, is there a small lake on top of the 19 connected mountains? Huoguang immediately asked. Lord, how did you know? A few years ago, I brought some people to patrol the mountains and happened to see it. The lake was not big, but the water was very sweet. Huoguang suddenly said in surprise. A lake on the mountain? That's the mouth of the dragon vein. In these years, it should have gathered a lot of dragon vein energy. Yin Chuan suddenly said excitedly. Lord, that's the dragon vein? Huoguang said in surprise. Huoguang, after we go down the mountain, you go and organize the army. We'll set out for the dragon vein as soon as possible. After that, we'll go to Emerald Cloud Mountain and kill all of Zhang's consecrators. Then we'll hunt the demon snake. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, Huoguang answered. Lord, what about the captured black armored army? Do we need people to guard them? Huoguang asked again. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes and said, They're going to consume our food. What's the point of keeping them? Yes. Huoguang immediately straightened his body. Yin Chuan's words announced the death penalty for the black armored army that tried to assassinate him. Chapter 16. Coming down from the mountain. Huoguang, go organize the troops. When everything is ready, go to the bamboo house and wait for me. Yin Chuan ordered. Yes. Huoguang complied. Huoguang left, and 20 silver armored guards guarded Yin Chuan. Lu Jin followed Yin Chuan back to the bamboo house. Are all the brushes here? Yin Chuan asked Lu Jin. Yes, although the Lord rarely uses them. They are all here. Lu Jin said respectfully. All right, you can leave now. Without my orders, no one is allowed to enter. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Lu Jin left the bamboo house curiously. She then closed the bamboo house from the outside. Yin Chuan looked at the brushes again. There were a total of 54 brushes, but in Yin Chuan's eyes, these brushes were too weak. Previously, he took one out and wrote the two words Zhen Xiong, but it couldn't withstand the yuan qi of heaven and earth and actually collapsed. Walala! Yin Chuan threw a large number of brushes to the ground. These brushes couldn't withstand his words. Out of the 54 brushes, only 3 purple jade brushes were left. All of them were carved with exquisite jade dragons. Spreading out a piece of rice paper, Yin Chuan calmed his mind and grabbed a purple jade brush. Looking at the new rice paper, he fell silent. Yin Chuan squinted his eyes, as if he was copying a script in his heart. Suddenly, Yin Chuan opened his eyes, and a ray of light shot out from Yin Chuan's eyes. Dipping the brush in ink, Yin Chuan slowly wrote on the rice paper. Ooh! A whirlwind rose in the room again, and even a faint mist condensed around the room. With every stroke, it was as if a ray of golden light shot out from a brush. The golden light shot out in all directions, and the wind and rain in the room could be vaguely seen. The golden light under the brush grew brighter and brighter. Stroke by stroke, Yin Chuan wrote the word town. It was clearly written in pitch-black ink, but after it was written, the words strangely overflowed with a golden light. The last stroke was finished. Ooh! The surrounding whirlwinds and mist were quickly sucked into the word suppress. Rumble! Holding the brush, Yin Chuan could hear the rumbling of the words. After absorbing all the wind and rain, the word suppress shone even more brightly. It even emitted a dazzling golden light amidst the rumbling. The golden light illuminated everything. Within the golden light, a 7-storied octagonal golden pagoda slowly floated up. The golden pagoda did not have a name, but it was filled with an aura of invincibility. The word suppress revealed a golden pagoda. Yin Chuan's calligraphy had also completely entered the realm of qi creation. Phew! Yin Chuan let out a long sigh of satisfaction. The purple jade brush in his hand had already turned into fine powder, completely dispersed by the qi of heaven and earth. Yin Chuan's face was slightly pale. He revealed a bitter smile and said, "For most people who practice calligraphy, when they write a word, they attract the qi of heaven and earth from all around to temper their body. This is a good thing. Who would have thought that my body would almost be unable to withstand the qi of heaven and earth? Huh?" Looking at the golden pagoda floating above the rice paper, Yin Chuan smiled faintly. He stretched out his hand and gently folded it. As the rice paper was folded, the golden pagoda suddenly disappeared. After folding it a few times, Yin Chuan carefully put it away. Then he sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. After a while, he stood up and opened the bamboo house again. Outside the bamboo house, Huaguang and Lu Jin were waiting. Not far away, there was a large palanquin carried by 16 people. "Lord," everyone said respectfully. "Are you ready?" Yin Chuan said faintly. "Yes, the 3,000 protector camp soldiers have all been reorganized. I have already sent 500 soldiers to scout out the enemy's situation," Huaguang said respectfully. Chapter 17. Good. Yin Chuan nodded in satisfaction. "Get someone to bring my desk, brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. I'll need them." Yin Chuan said to Lu Jin, "Yes, Your Highness. The white silk from the 8 banners has been woven into a piece of 1-meter-long white cloth." Lu Jin immediately handed over a piece of white cloth that was extremely smooth and as thin as a cicada's wing. "Oh." Yin Chuan took the white cloth. He looked at it and said with satisfaction, "Good, then bring it along. I'll need it then." "Yes," Lu Jin said respectfully. "Since everything is ready, let's go." Yin Chuan said, "Yes, Lord, please get on the palanquin." Lu Jin said immediately. "Good." Yin Chuan nodded. At the side of the palanquin, 16 soldiers were waiting respectfully for Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan stepped forward. He lifted the curtain and entered the interior. The palanquin carried by 16 people was extremely spacious. It was like a small room with windows, a table, and chairs. There was also an incense burner, snacks, and fruits on the table. Sitting down comfortably, Yin Chuan picked up a grape, peeled it, and ate it. It was extremely sweet. Although it was not as good as his dragon carriage, it was still comfortable. "Let's go," Yin Chuan said. "Yes," Hua Guang replied. The palanquin was lifted up by the soldiers. It moved slowly. Slowly, it was carried to the 2,000 soldiers in the distance. It was guarded by the soldiers in the center. Lu Jin ordered some soldiers to carry the desk, brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, and slowly moved towards Longmai Mountain. At the top of Longmai Mountain, Yin Chuan was rushing towards a small lake at the top of the mountain. At this moment, the small lake was surrounded by white fog, making it impossible to see anything in the lake. Outside the small lake, there were 4 small white flags. White fog spewed out from the flags. Obviously, the fog in the small lake came from the array formed by the 4 small flags. Screech. Suddenly, the cry of a crane came from high up in the sky. A huge red-crowned crane came out of the white clouds. The red-crowned crane was as tall as 2 people. With a flap of its wings, the surrounding white clouds were instantly scattered. Screech. With a loud cry, the red-crowned crane swooped down into the small lake at the top of the mountain below. Boom! The fog in the surroundings surged, and the red-crowned crane landed by the small lake. The long crane beak pecked at the small lake, and a large fish was pecked into the air. It opened its mouth and swallowed it in one gulp. At this moment, the figure of a young girl suddenly rushed out of the small lake. Boom! Only the girl's head was above the surface of the water. Her beautiful hair was swept behind her head, and her face was delicate and delicate. She had watery eyes and a jade-like nose. Her face was slightly rosy, and she looked extremely beautiful. The lake water was clear, and one could vaguely see her beautiful body. Her skin was as white as cream, her hands were like jade, and her buttocks were plump and her legs were long. Her entire body was like a work of art, causing people to be in a trance and infatuated. Screech. The red-crowned crane cried out happily to the young girl. "Little crane, this is the mouth of a dragon vein. The water is moist and sweet. Although it can't be compared to the water at home, it's the best water we've seen in the days we've been out. I haven't bathed in a long time, and so have you. Take a bath, hee-hee." The young girl scooped up the water and splashed it at the red-crowned crane. Screech, screech. The red-crowned crane flapped its wings and splashed the water at the young girl. The young girl and the crane played around. Instantly, the scene was boundless, and the young girl's bell-like laughter could be heard. After fooling around for a while, the red-crowned crane was covered in water before they stopped. The young girl swam in the lake and looked at the red-crowned crane. "Are they rushing me again?" Screech. The red-crowned crane nodded. Chapter 18. Don't worry about them for now. The Ceiling Forest is a huge feng shui formation. Although the 9 stars pearl alignment will draw in a lot of yin energy and weaken the formation, it won't be that easy to get in. The young woman smiled. "That's right. They're looking for the entrance? Then let them search for it. Mr. Monroe can't do it. That half-baked dwarf feng shui master won't be able to do it. I won't go now. This feng shui array must be very dangerous. The sooner we go in, the sooner we'll die. We'll go in when the other sects come and test the water. Don't you see that Mr. Monroe hasn't come yet? It's useless to come early." The girl laughed. Screech, screech. The crane screeched again. "Don't worry. The magic lotus in the array will be mine." The girl shook her head confidently. Screech. "Keep watching for me. I want to bathe for a while longer." The girl smiled at the crane. Screech. The crane nodded. The crane flapped its wings and soared into the sky. However, the wind caused by its wings was too strong. A lot of lake water splashed toward the girl. Suddenly, the girl's face was splashed. "Ah, little crane, just you wait. I'll get my revenge." The girl laughed and scolded the crane. Screech. The celestial crane looked quite pleased as it happily flew into the clouds and continued to act as a protector. The Lord Protector's camp walked in the forest. After half a day, they were not far from Longmai Mountain. Yin Chuan sat in the sedan and waited patiently. Hua Guang and Lu Jin followed outside the sedan. Stop! Yin Chuan's voice suddenly came from the sedan. Stop in front, Hua Guang shouted. Fortunately, there were only about 2,000 soldiers. Soon the troops stopped. Hua Guang looked at the sedan curiously. In the sedan, Yin Chuan lifted his left sleeve again, revealing the seed-like birthmark on his wrist. At this moment, the birthmark was emitting a faint green light. Gently stroking the seed-like birthmark, Yin Chuan smiled faintly and said, After the birth of usurper, only you, Poison Ivy, were reincarnated with me. Unfortunately, I don't have any profound chi now, so I can't feed you and let you grow. Even if it's as weak as a vine seed, it won't change its ability to distinguish poison. Since it gave a warning, even if it was only once, there must be some kind of poison in the surroundings. Poison? Yin Chuan lifted the curtain and walked out. The Lord? Hua Guang and the others looked at Yin Chuan curiously. Yin Chuan gently nodded and looked around. This place was a canyon. On both sides of the canyon were mountain rocks. On top of the mountain rocks, there were occasional vegetation. Yin Chuan looked around and suddenly saw a small green branch halfway up a cliff. There were 2 red fruits on the branch. The fruits weren't big, only the size of soybean, but it was these 2 fruits that triggered Poison Ivy's alarm. Drunken origin fruit? Not bad. Yin Chuan smiled faintly. Hua Guang, go and pick that small blade of grass. Don't touch the 2 fruits. Yin Chuan ordered. Yes. Hua Guang replied. Tap, tap, tap. After a few jumps, Hua Guang arrived halfway up the cliff. According to Yin Chuan's request, he uprooted the drunken origin fruit. Then, he quickly went down the mountain and landed in front of Yin Chuan curiously. Lord, Hua Guang handed over the drunken origin fruit. It really is the drunken origin fruit. Yin Chuan took it in satisfaction. Suddenly, Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. As if he sensed something, he looked at the peak of the mountain. At the peak of the mountain, there were 18 young men and women. The leader was a man in a black robe. His brows were furrowed and a long sword hung on his waist. His hand never left the sword as he looked at Yin Chuan curiously. Senior brother, is that him? The others looked at the man in the black robe and asked. It can't be wrong. Although we haven't seen each other for 7 years, I can still recognize him even if he turned into ashes. A man in purple beside him said excitedly. The man in purple looked at Yin Chuan with a gloomy face. His eyes were filled with pride and resentment. Who's on the mountain? Yin Chuan asked in a low voice. Yin Chuan, you sickly person. You're still not dead? The man in purple mocked. Yin Chuan squinted his eyes. From the man in purple's tone, he could hear a hint of killing intent. Who was he? Chapter 19. Yin Chuan, you sickly person, you still haven't died? The purple-clothed man said coldly. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. From the tone of the purple-clothed man, he could hear a trace of killing intent. Who is he? Xiao! 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 The 18 people jumped down from the mountaintop. Pong! 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 They landed on the ground, creating a large cloud of dust. Hua Guang's expression changed. One had to know that although this mountain wasn't high, even he didn't dare to jump. 18 people landed safely. This meant that the cultivation level of these 18 people was much higher than his. Boom! The soldiers in the valley raised their spears and surrounded the 18 visitors. Mortals! Yin Chuan, are you going to use this group of trash to welcome us? The purple-clothed man said disdainfully. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes and looked at the crowd. He ordered, retreat to the west. Yes, sir. The group of soldiers responded loudly. They slowly raised their spears and retreated. This was a valley that connected the east and west. A breeze blew from the west. The dust from the soldiers' footsteps covered the 18 men and women, making them look even more ethereal and tall. The army retreated to the west of the valley. They looked at the 18 people with their swords drawn. Hua Guang stood in front of Yin Chuan, protecting him. His face showed a trace of seriousness, because Hua Guang had already guessed a possibility. The 18 people in front of them were from the Immortal sect. Since they were from the Immortal sect, they definitely knew magic. They might even have magic treasures. The bows and arrows of mortals were a joke in front of them. What to do? Hua Guang tightened his grip on his spear. Blue veins popped out. He was clearly nervous, as if facing a great enemy. Lu Jin also stood in front of Yin Chuan. The horsetail whisk in her hand trembled slightly. Not far away, the 18 people showed disdain. Yin Chuan patted Lu Jin and Hua Guang. Lord! The two of them looked at Yin Chuan in confusion. There's no need to be nervous, Yin Chuan said with a smile. Huh? The two of them were stunned. Yes. Only then did the two of them open up a path. Bring out the table from the palanquin, Yin Chuan ordered. Yes, Yin Chuan replied immediately. He ordered 2 soldiers to enter the palanquin and bring out a small table. There were snacks, fruits, and an incense burner on the table. Burn incense to welcome the guests, Yin Chuan said to Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin immediately took out a lighter and prepared to light the incense burner. Yin Chuan looked at the drunken origin fruit that he had just plucked from the mountain wall. He gently plucked a fruit from it and handed it to Lu Jin. You need a spiritual fruit to burn incense. Put it in and burn the incense together. Yes. Lu Jin immediately did as she was told. The smoke from the incense burner drifted. Lu Jin retreated. Yin Chuan handed the remaining drunken origin fruit to Lu Jin. Lu Jin took it and retreated to the side. The 18 people looked at Yin Chuan's series of actions and were slightly surprised. Heh, you've been in the secular world for 7 years. You've learned a lot of its complicated rules. Yin Chuan, are you still the Yin Chuan from before? The purple-robed man shouted coldly again. Yin Chuan took a step forward and looked at the crowd indifferently. Yin Chuan has lost most of his memories. May I know who you are? Why are you so familiar with me? Yin Chuan said indifferently. Ha 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 ha. You don't recognize me? I remember now. Your soulless disease is acting up again. You lose your memories every year. Without the protection of your traitor father, you are just a piece of trash. How are you going to fight with me? Ha ha ha. The purple-robed man shouted proudly. Ha ha. Chapter 20. There were 4 or 5 people who agreed with the purple-robed man and laughed. At the same time, they looked at Yin Chuan with disgust. The black-robed eldest senior brother frowned slightly, but his expression did not change. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes and stared at the purple-robed man who was making fun of him. Who are you? Yin Chuan asked again. Who am I? Have you forgotten about me? The purple-robed man smiled evilly. This is the grandson of the current sect leader, senior brother Feng Xiao. Someone at the side immediately introduced. Coquettish. Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. What did you say? Feng Xiao said coldly. Yin Chuan ignored Feng Xiao and looked at the black-robed eldest senior brother. Who are you? The black-robed eldest senior brother was slightly surprised and said, My name is Jiangnan. Although your father did those shameless things, I still admire him. Don't worry, we're just passing by and happen to meet. I won't make things difficult for you. Shameless things? Oh, it's not up to you to judge my father. Yin Chuan replied coldly. Yin Chuan, what's with your tone? Your father colluded with the demonic woman and caused great damage to our sect. He gave birth to a bastard like you and humiliated our sect. My grandfather spared you and let you live. Eldest senior brother is the champion of our sect's 3rd generation disciple competition. What can't you say? Little bastard. Feng Xiao shouted coldly. Bastard. Hua Guang shouted angrily. Ka 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 ka. The soldiers immediately raised their longbows and spears. The Lord was humiliated and the soldiers were ready to fight. Who? Yin Chuan waved his hand and stopped Hua Guang. Ha ha ha. Little bastard, when your father was here, you could still act like a tyrant. What about now? With them? Feng Xiao sneered. Roar. Feng Xiao shouted and a huge sound wave swept toward Yin Chuan's army. In the canyon, the roar seemed to be amplified several times. Rumble. It was as if a gust of wind had blown past, and some of the weaker soldiers immediately swayed from side to side. They couldn't even hold their spears steadily. Yin Chuan's clothes fluttered violently. Most of the noise was directed at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan steadied his feet and dropped down with force. Immediately, he left an inch-deep imprint on the ground. Only then did he stop moving. Good. A few people cheered for Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao felt even more pleased with himself. As for eldest senior brother Jiang Nan, at this moment, he seemed to have tacitly agreed and didn't interrupt. Essence state? He refined profound qi? Huoguang's expression suddenly changed. That was the realm of immortals. No one in the entire yin state had reached the realm of essence. How could this person in front of him be in the realm of essence? How is it? Little vile spawn? Feng Xiao said proudly. Just SOSO. Yin Chuan said coldly and disdainfully. What did you say? Feng Xiao said coldly. Jiang Nan was also surprised. Feng Xiao. Oh, I see that you're always against me. I guess that when my father was alive, he was often bullied by me. Even after 7 years, you still hold a grudge in your heart? Yin Chuan said with a faint smile. Feng Xiao's face suddenly darkened. Apparently, Yin Chuan was right. Ha ha, little vile spawn. It's been 7 years. Now it's different. I'm already a master of the essence state. What about you? In the secular world, you must still be struggling in the power state. Feng Xiao sneered. What? Do you want to have a try? Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes and said, The people on the opposite side were stunned. What did Yin Chuan mean? Was he also in the essence state? Impossible. What was there in the secular world? There were no resources for him to cultivate. Moreover, the sect took away all the things left by his father. Essence state? Impossible. Chapter 21. Eldest senior brother Jiang Nan squinted his eyes. Although Huoguang and the others pretended to be calm, they were anxious. Feng Xiao sneered and said, Give it a try? Ha ha ha. Although I told you not to disturb your life, you asked for it yourself. I want to see if you have improved after 7 years in the secular world. LV3 of the Power Realm? 7 years ago, he was at LV3 of the Power Realm. Today, 7 years later, Yin Chuan was still at LV3 of the Power Realm. Yin Chuan smiled bitterly. It seemed that he could not improve his cultivation for the past 7 years because of the amnesia, but it did not matter. He had woken up in his previous life. None of the people behind Feng Xiao tried to stop him. Even eldest senior brother Jiang Nan looked on coldly. 7 years ago, you were not my match. 7 years later, you are still my defeated opponent. Yin Chuan said calmly. Ha ha ha, what a boast. Although you can't remember, I won't let you go. Power Realm? I can kill you with a yawn. Humph. Feng Xiao said coldly. Just like the toad roar just now. Yin Chuan said sarcastically. That's not the toad roar. That's my sect's chant to the heavens. And I only used 60% of my strength just now. Feng Xiao was furious. Really? If your toad roar can make me leave my spot, you win. What do you think? Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Ah ha ha ha. Feng Xiao laughed out of anger. Since you asked for it, don't blame me. Feng Xiao said coldly. As he spoke, Feng Xiao took a step forward. Huoguang and the others were anxious. However, Yin Chuan was not surprised. He even reached out to grab the fruits on the table beside him. He plucked a grape and sniffed it lightly. As he smelled the fruity aroma, he looked at Feng Xiao calmly. On both sides stood the soldiers and the 17 members of the Immortal sect. In the middle stood Feng Xiao and Yin Chuan. The battle between the two was on the verge of breaking out. Huoguang was a subordinate. Without Yin Chuan's order, he dared not interfere. But in the distance, Jiang Nan, with a group of junior brothers and sisters, was watching coldly from the sidelines. In the end, Feng Xiao was the grandson of the sect master. There is no need for them to offend him. That toad roar of yours, you can start now. Yin Chuan said indifferently as he smelled the fruity fragrance. Not far away, in the lake at the entrance of Dragon Vein Mountain, when a young girl came out of the bath, she put on a man's white shirt. Although it was men's clothing, when a young girl wore it, it showed a heroic beauty. Screech! Screech! The red-crowned crane cried out. Little hearer, I still want to bathe again. Did you see it clearly? Who disturbed this saintess's bath? The young girl grumbled. Screech, screech. The red-crowned crane shook its head and cried out. All right, let's go take a look. The young girl smiled. With a wave of her hand, the flags around the lake flew into her hand. The young girl immediately stepped onto the back of the red-crowned crane. Screech! The red-crowned crane let out a long cry and carried the young girl into the sky. In the blink of an eye, they flew into the clouds. Above the clouds, the young girl looked down and soon saw the confrontation between the two parties in the valley. LV3 of the Strength Realm versus LV3 of the Essence Realm. Haha, am I seeing things? How is this possible? Is that kid at LV3 of the Strength Realm crazy? The young girl was surprised. While the young girl was surprised, the battle between the two below had begun. Yin Chuan, are you ready? I'll get my all. Feng Xiao laughed evilly. Roar! Feng Xiao opened his mouth and roared again. An even more ferocious sound wave rushed towards Yin Chuan. Chapter 22. Chanting to the Sky. Looks like these people are all from the Deus sect. The girl in the sky said thoughtfully. The powerful sound waves once again rushed towards Yin Chuan. Wave after wave, they even caused the soil on the ground to fly up. They were all aimed at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan's clothes fluttered even more violently. Wave after wave of impact, it was as if huge waves were washing over his body. Yin Chuan exerted force on his feet, and his footprints deepened by 2 inches. Even though his body was trembling in the sound waves, his feet were rooted to the ground and did not move an inch. Great 1,000-pound drop? Interesting indeed. But the opponent only used chanting to the sky. Level 3 of the Force Realm? Losing is only a matter of time. The girl shook her head and sighed. The tone of a toad is still far from enough. Yin Chuan said disdainfully. Feng Xiao, who was roaring, was so angry that his face changed. He almost choked from the roar. The roar just now had released a large amount of air from his stomach. He opened his mouth and breathed heavily to replenish his air while looking at Yin Chuan with hatred. At this moment, Yin Chuan moved. His movement was extremely strange. No one expected that Yin Chuan would move his finger and shoot out the grape on his finger. Grape? No matter if it was the people from the Deus sect, the soldiers, or even the girl in the sky, they were all extremely strange. Grape? A grape could kill a Force Realm expert? What kind of joke was this? Was Yin Chuan crazy? Huff! With a muffled sound, a scene that no one could understand happened. This scene would be remembered by everyone for the rest of their lives. The grape was shot right into Feng Xiao's mouth. It was sucked into his mouth in an instant when Feng Xiao was inhaling violently. Feng Xiao immediately covered his neck. His eyes widened as he looked at Yin Chuan in horror. A weak gasping sound came from his mouth, and his face suddenly flushed red. Not only that, he was sweating all over and his eyes were bulging. His painful expression was indescribable. Moreover, as time passed, Feng Xiao's lips became more and more purple. With a painful scream, Feng Xiao immediately went limp and even fell to the ground. Senior brother, are you all right? The group of junior brothers quickly surrounded him. However, the grape was stuck in his windpipe, and Feng Xiao could not speak. He clutched his throat and convulsed in pain. Hua Guang, Lu Jin, and the others were stunned. Just a moment ago, the arrogant and aggressive elite state expert was just a grape by the Lord? Defeated by a grape? Is this real? High in the sky. Interesting. Grapes? I was just wondering if that kid had gone crazy. How could he still be in the mood to eat grapes while fighting against an elite? So it's used to make weapons. These grapes? Who would have thought that this grape would be more powerful than any weapon? Grapes? How could a grape defeat a master of the elite state? How interesting, The young girl said excitedly. The most exciting moment was always the moment of surprise. Screech, screech. The red-crowned crane was also excited. Below, the disciples of the Deus sect immediately surrounded them, including the eldest senior brother Jiangnan. Help, help! Feng Xiao grabbed the eldest senior brother's clothes in pain and could not speak a complete sentence. In just a moment, Feng Xiao's face had turned purple and his tears could not stop flowing. His whole body was sweating as if he had been fished out of the water. The strength that he was proud of could not be released at all. His whole body was convulsing. Block the windpipe? The group of masters did not know what to do. They had all kinds of experience dealing with knife wounds and sword wounds, but what about suffocation? Puff, puff. White foam came out of Feng Xiao's mouth, and his eyes rolled. It seemed that he was about to die. Eldest senior brother, what should we do? What should we do? The masters exclaimed. Jiang Nan's face was also very pale at this moment. He put his hand on Feng Xiao's back. His windpipe is blocked. If I use force, his windpipe will be shattered. Then it will be worse. Jiang Nan said with a pale face. But senior brother Feng Xiao is about to die. The masters said sadly. This was the grandson of the sect leader. If he died, no one dared to think about it. Chapter 23. There was no suspense in the battle between Feng Xiao and Yin Chuan. In the eyes of the Day sect, at most, Feng Xiao was bullying Yin Chuan because of his higher cultivation. As long as Yin Chuan didn't die, they would turn a blind eye to it. However, who would have thought that it would end like this? Feng Xiao was going to be killed by Yin Chuan's grape? If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Even if they returned to the sect and reported it, no one would believe it. A grape? A grape? While everyone felt that it was absurd, they were also anxious. What if Feng Xiao died? How would they explain it to the sect? Not only Feng Xiao, who was foaming at the mouth, but almost everyone was so anxious that their faces were covered in sweat. Those who don't want him to die, get out of the way. Yin Chuan's voice suddenly sounded. Huh? Everyone looked at Yin Chuan. At this time, everyone looked at Yin Chuan with an astonished expression. It was because of him that Feng Xiao ended up like this. You have a way to save Feng Xiao. Jiang Nan frowned and looked at Yin Chuan. Since he is the grandson of my father's sect leader, saving him is out of respect for the sect leader. Yin Chuan said indifferently. When he was 18, he still had to go to that sect. Yin Chuan didn't want to make things worse now. Yin Chuan didn't care about Feng Xiao's life at all because Feng Xiao didn't have the qualifications to make him hate him. Then, quickly save him. Jiang Nan frowned. Jiang Nan found it hard to accept that Feng Xiao had turned a deaf ear to Yin Chuan's request now. However, he was the leader of this trip and had no choice but to care about Feng Xiao's life. Hua Guang, your servant is here, Hua Guang said excitedly. Just a moment ago, he was still a member of the Immortal sect. Now he was begging the Lord? For a moment, not only the silver-armored army, but also Hua Guang's face lit up with excitement. Turn Feng Xiao upside down, Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yes. Hua Guang immediately stepped forward. The group of experts stared at Hua Guang, but they had no choice but to hand Feng Xiao over to Hua Guang. Hua Guang was filled with excitement as he pinched a powerhouse who used to be high and mighty in his eyes like he was pinching a dog. Lu Jin, hit him hard on the back. Yin Chuan ordered again. Yes. Lu Jin also stepped forward excitedly. Reaching out, Lu Jin struck Feng Xiao's back with her palm. Boom! Lu Jin was merciless. This brat slandered the old emperor and insulted the Lord. Lu Jin was not polite to him at all. Boom! Feng Xiao suddenly spat out a grape covered in thick phlegm from his mouth. Who? Feng Xiao could immediately breathe again. He sucked in big mouthfuls of phlegm, but his twitching body did not recover quickly. His body was still weak. It was obvious that he would not be able to recover in a short time. He's out, he's out. The group of experts immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Throw him to them, Yin Chuan said. Yes. Hua Guang obeyed. Boom. He threw Feng Xiao out like a dead dog. The group of experts immediately caught him. Senior brother, are you okay? Senior brother. Everyone immediately came up to him. Hua Guang and Lu Jin also returned to Yin Chuan's side. Now, everyone looked at Yin Chuan with even more admiration. Yin Chuan said indifferently, How dare you come out to train when you're so weak? Take him back. Too weak to stand up to the wind. The group of senior brothers immediately froze. Was Yin Chuan saying that Feng Xiao was weak, or was he saying that they were weak? Moreover, the crowd did not know how to refute. Feng Xiao was defeated by a grape. Was he not weak enough to withstand a gust of wind? Everyone felt sullen. Too weak to stand up to the wind? Heh, junior brother Feng Xiao. That was a moment of carelessness. Jiangnan could not help but argue. Chapter 24. Hearing Jiangnan's words, the other disciples nodded, not only to agree with Jiangnan, but also to make themselves feel better. Careless? Ha ha! Yin Chuan laughed. Yin Chuan did not say why he was laughing, but his laughter made everyone blush. Careless? Careless in a battle of life and death. This was a childish way of saying it, but Jiangnan was the one who said it. Jiangnan also felt that he had made a slip of the tongue, but more than that, he was angry. He was angry at Yin Chuan's arrogance. He was angry that Yin Chuan, who was only in the strength realm, dared to disrespect him. However, Yin Chuan's carefree laughter caused the soldiers to feel excited. The commander was the spiritual symbol of the army. The commander was the Lord. He could remain calm in front of the people from the immortal sect, and could even control the people from the immortal sect. The soldiers only had pride, endless pride. In the sky, the girl stared at Yin Chuan, her eyes shining. She smiled and said, "This person is really special." Screech, screech. The crane nodded. Jiangnan slowly stood up. He took a step forward. The other disciples looked at him. They were all waiting for their eldest senior brother to teach Yin Chuan a lesson. Yin Chuan, it seems that we have underestimated you. Since you said that we are weak, I would like to learn from you. Jiangnan said in a deep voice. Learn from him? Hua Guang and Lu Jin became nervous again. They had used a trick to win with grape, but could they do the same now? In the sky. The people from Aday's sect are really shameless. LV7 of the Strength Realm? Challenging someone at LV3 of the Strength Realm? The girl looked disgusted. The girl was just curious about the previous fight, but now she was disgusted. The fight was obviously unbalanced, and they shamelessly kept going. Little here, do you think I should help that kid or not? I think he's quite pleasing to the eye. The girl asked the crane. Screech, screech. The crane shook its head. All right, let's wait and see. The young girl nodded. Below, Yin Chuan saw Jiangnan's challenge and shook his head. You? It was still not enough. Go back, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Ha, with just you? Jiangnan laughed in anger. The group of martial brothers shared a common hatred for the enemy, coldly looking at Yin Chuan. Don't you think that you and Feng Xiao are very similar? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. Feng Xiao had just been pushed to the brink of death by grape, which was simply a disgrace. Jiangnan even felt ashamed to be associated with him. But Yin Chuan actually said that he was very similar to Feng Xiao. Jiangnan's face was instantly filled with displeasure. Don't worry. I'll only use 10% of my strength, and I won't hurt you. Let me see if your strength is as powerful as your mouth. Jiangnan said coldly. Yin Chuan's eyes narrowed as he looked at Jiangnan. In the end, he shook his head lightly and said, You are too weak. Bastard? Xing. Jiangnan reached out his hand and pulled out the long sword at his waist. A murderous aura suddenly shot towards him. However, Yin Chuan stood still and looked on indifferently. Ta! Jiangnan took a step forward. However, just as he took a step forward, Jiangnan's body swayed, as though he was about to fall. Thump, thump, thump. Jiangnan staggered a few steps. Jiangnan looked at Yin Chuan, who was swaying in the distance in horror. Why am I like this? What happened to me? Yin Chuan, what kind of sorcery did you use? How is this possible? How is this possible? Jiangnan said in horror. Chapter 25. Plop. Jiangnan fell to the ground. Eldest senior brother, what's wrong with you? The junior brothers exclaimed. However, as soon as the group of junior brothers took a step forward, their bodies also started to sway. They swayed and fell to the ground with a plop. They fell to the ground one by one and looked at Yin Chuan in horror. How could this be? How could this be? Everyone looked at Yin Chuan in horror. Previously, Feng Xiao was still a grape. Why did he suddenly lose control of his body? At this moment, they no longer had the demeanor of an expert. There was only despair in their eyes. Not only were their bodies restrained, but they also suffered a psychological blow. The strength state? 18 of them in the elite state were defeated by someone in the strength state. Oh God, can someone tell me why? The group of experts fell to the ground. Lu Jin, Hua Guang, and the silver-armored soldiers widened their eyes. Is this real? The soldiers even rubbed their eyes as if they were dreaming. In the sky, the young girl was speechless. Screech, screech. The red-crowned crane flapped its wings in confusion. I know. The young girl's eyes lit up. At this moment, the young girl looked at Yin Chuan with brighter eyes. This person is extraordinary. Although he is in the strength state, he is indeed extraordinary. The young girl exclaimed. Below, Yin Chuan looked at the group of experts who had fainted on the ground. His expression was still indifferent. My lord, what is this? Lu Jin asked in confusion. Seeing Lu Jin and Hua Guang's curiosity, Yin Chuan smiled and said, Do you remember what was burned just now? The fruit just now? The incense burner? That was poisonous smoke? Lu Jin's eyes lit up. Yin Chuan nodded. But why are we fine? Lu Jin asked in confusion. I know. The Lord asked us to stand on the west side. The west side is upwind. All the poisonous smoke was blown to them. Hua Guang said excitedly. Yin Chuan nodded with satisfaction. That's right. This is the purpose of burning incense to welcome guests. Now, tell me, what do you think? Yin Chuan looked at the two and asked, Experience? The two of them were slightly stunned, but when they saw the serious look in Yin Chuan's eyes, they immediately understood that the Lord was testing them, or rather, teaching them something. Experience? These two words, in the ears of Jiang Nan and the others in the distance, were so ear-piercing and sullen. Lord, I understand now. The people of the celestial sect are also humans. We shouldn't deify them. There's nothing special about them. Hua Guang said. Yes, they only have more cultivation than us. Most of the time, strength is not only about cultivation, but also about brains. Lu Jin also seemed to have understood something. Good. It's good that you can understand this. Yin Chuan said with satisfaction. Yes. The two of them were overjoyed. Lord, what should we do with these people? Lu Jin asked. Do you want to kill them? Just find a place to bury them. Hua Guang said with a cold look in his eyes. As soon as Hua Guang spoke, the 18 people on the ground were filled with grief and indignation, but they couldn't say anything. They were masters of the mastery state. Were they going to die in the hands of a group of mortals? Some of the girls were so scared that they started to cry. Yin Chuan smiled and shook his head. These sprouts are out for training. They must be secretly escorted by masters. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Sprouts? Everyone felt depressed again, especially Jiang Nan. He was the eldest senior brother of the third-generation disciples in the Day sect. He won first place in the competition. How arrogant was he? Now, he had become a prisoner without even making a move. Moreover, he was called a Sprouts by a mortal in the mastery state. This was a huge blow to him. Ha ha! Junior brother Yin Chuan, you're so cool. Long time no see. A burst of laughter came from the valley. Then, a figure came from afar in a flash. It was a man in a Taoist robe. He had a purple gourd hanging from his waist and a long sword on his back. He was full of smiles. Woo, woo, woo. The eyes of the people on the ground were filled with hope. Chapter 26. Who are you? Yin Chuan asked. I'm Zhu Jiansheng, a second-generation disciple of the Day sect. Your father taught me swordsmanship in the past. You were young back then, so you might not remember me. The man in the Taoist robe laughed. I've forgotten most of my memories. Zhu Jiansheng, are you here to protect them? Yin Chuan nodded. That's right. These little bastards don't know the immensity of heaven and earth after learning some skills. Fortunately, they met you this time. If it were an outsider, they would have lost their lives. Zhu Jiansheng shook his head and laughed. The experts on the ground immediately blushed. If that's the case, then take them away. Yin Chuan said directly. Well, if I'm not wrong, your incense burner is burning drunken elemental fruit, right? Zhu Zhu Jiansheng said awkwardly. Lu Jin, pluck 18 leaves and give them to them. Yin Chuan turned to Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin nodded immediately. She quickly plucked the leaves from the drunken elemental fruit vines. There were 18 leaves, and she handed them to Zhu Jiansheng. Thank you. Otherwise, it would have taken me a lot of effort. Zhu Jiansheng laughed. He quickly stuffed a leaf into a disciple's mouth. After a while, that person could move again. Go, put a leaf in each of their mouths. Chew it and swallow it. Zhu Jiansheng gave the other leaves to that person. Soon, the poison in the 18 people was cured. They stood up one by one. Thank you, Martial Uncle, everyone said respectfully. At the same time, the experts looked at Yin Chuan with more and more complicated eyes. Among them, Feng Xiao looked at Yin Chuan with more and more resentment. Jiang Nim looked at Yin Chuan with an indescribable sullen expression. If that's the case, then we'll take our leave first. We'll see you in the Day sect in the future. Zhu Jiansheng laughed. I won't see you off. Yin Chuan nodded. Yin Chuan, you just wait. This enmity, I'll avenge it. Feng Xiao left behind some vicious words before leaving. Pa! Zhu Jiansheng slapped Feng Xiao's head. Report my ass. If he wanted to kill you, you would have died a long time ago. Moreover, he will be your elder in the future. If you dare to report, your grandfather will break your legs. Zhu Jiansheng immediately scolded. Feng Xiao. Soon, Zhu Jiansheng and his group disappeared from Yin Chuan's sight. Along the way, Martial Uncle, what is Yin Chuan's cultivation level? Is he really still in the strength state? Jiang Min bit her lips and asked. Yin Chuan? He's still at LV3 of the power realm, but he's much more mature than you guys. Zhu Jiansheng said in a deep voice. Third level of the power realm. Everyone felt their vision go dark. Really? He was really in the strength state. Martial Uncle, I can't accept this. Feng Xiao said sullenly. Why can't you accept this? You asked for it. Don't think that your cultivation level is higher than his, but have you seen what he can do? If he wants to kill you, it'll be a piece of cake for him. Zhu Jiansheng scolded. But Feng Xiao was still unconvinced. Use your brain more in the future. This time, I followed you secretly and recorded your performance in this trip. Look at your performance. You guys are a bunch of hotheads. Yin Chuan said that you guys are sprouts, and he's right. Zhu Jiansheng said without giving them any face. Everyone, then, Martial Uncle, where are we going now? Jiang Min asked. Where are we going? According to my records, you guys are all dead. Where else do you want to go? Let's go back to the sect now. Reflect on it properly. Motherfucker, you bunch of sprouts are too inexperienced. Zhu Jiansheng said unhappily. Everyone. Chapter 27. Everyone blushed, and no one said a word. Zhu Jiansheng might be polite in front of Yin Chuan, but he didn't give the juniors any face at all. Most importantly, Zhu Jiansheng was extremely powerful, so they could only walk back to their sect with a belly full of grievances. In the sky, the young girl rode a crane and watched Zhu Jiansheng leave with the people of the Day sect. Zhu Jiansheng? I think I've heard of him before. I think he's a genius of the second generation of disciples of the Day sect. The young girl touched her chin thoughtfully. Below, Yin Chuan watched Zhu Jiansheng leave. He sat back down in the palanquin. Raise the palanquin. Lu Jin yelled. The army marched toward the Dragon Vein Mountain again. However, the soldiers seemed to have been injected with stimulants, and they were all full of energy. They're going to the mountain pass too? What's that boy doing? The young girl was surprised. Screech, screech. The red-crowned crane cried out softly, as if expressing its curiosity. Could it be that this 17-year-old boy also knows the art of feng shui? Can he tell that this is the Dragon Vein? Impossible. How old is he? The young girl shook her head. Screech, screech. Let's see. The young girl was interested. Yin Chuan's army went straight to the small lake where the young girl had taken a bath. More than 2,000 soldiers stood guard at the foot of the mountain. Yin Chuan's palanquin landed in front of the small lake at the top of the mountain. Huoguang, Lu Jin, and a group of soldiers carried ink, paper, and inkstones. After getting off the palanquin, Yin Chuan looked at the small lake at the mountain pass. Little Crane, what do you think that boy's looking for? The young girl in the sky was puzzled. Screech. The red-crowned crane shook its head, indicating that it didn't know. The small lake wasn't big. After looking for a while, they stopped at the northern side of the lake. Dragon spitting pearls? That's right, it's here. Yin Chuan's eyes lit up. Make this place sturdy, lay stones, and place a desk. Yin Chuan immediately ordered. Yes. Hua Guang immediately accepted the order. Hua Guang chopped down a large tree and turned it into a large wooden stake. The silver-armored soldiers quickly used the wooden stakes to tamp down the ground. After that, he found a large stone and cut it flat. Finally, he placed the desk properly. High up in the sky, the girl's eyes were filled with confusion. He wondered what was going on down there. Bring me the white cloth woven from the banner, Yin Chuan said to Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin immediately took out the 3 feet of white cloth. He placed the white cloth flat on the desk and pressed it with a paperweight. Grind ink, Yin Chuan said. Yes. Lu Jin immediately ground the ink stick respectfully. Yin Chuan took out a purple jade brush and looked at the 3 feet long white cloth, deep in thought. Hua Guang and the other generals were extremely curious. In the sky, the young girl also looked at this scene in astonishment. What is he doing here? Writing? While the young girl was still in shock, Yin Chuan began to write. Whoosh! As soon as the brush landed, it was as if a breeze blew across the surface of the lake. The surface of the lake suddenly rippled. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? The young girl immediately rubbed her eyes. After rubbing her eyes, the wind on the surface of the lake became stronger and stronger. A large amount of fog floated up from the surface of the lake. The fog rose into the air and gradually condensed into a small cloud. Shocking the wind and rain? Is it really shocking the wind and rain? This is impossible, the young girl exclaimed. How could the young girl imagine that a 17 or 18-year-old youth could cause the wind and rain to blow? Shocking the wind and rain? This was something that only great scholars and calligraphers could do. But he was only 17 or 18 years old. Below, the soldiers thought that the sky had suddenly changed. Only Hua Guang and Lu Jin's eyes were shining. The two had already guessed that this might be the result of the Lord's brush. Chapter 28. Is this real? As Yin Chuan drew stroke by stroke, Lu Jin leaned closer and saw clearly that there was a painting on the white cloth. Although it was just a black outline, the monotonous colors made Lu Jin see vitality. Bamboo house. Yin Chuan was drawing the bamboo house that they had stayed in previously. Around the bamboo house, looking at the painting, Lu Jin felt that it was unreal. It was as if this was the bamboo house. There were a few small bamboo houses and a small courtyard. Yin Chuan did not draw the mountain behind or the surrounding bamboo forest. He only drew the courtyard of the small bamboo house. Strong winds blew on the lake and heavy rain fell. A huge whirlpool formed in the lake. The soldiers were shocked. Yin Chuan's forehead was covered in sweat, but his hands did not stop. He continued to draw stroke by stroke. Bang! The purple jade brush suddenly made a crisp sound and turned into powder. It was blown away by the wind. Yin Chuan did not stop. He grabbed the last purple jade brush and dipped it in ink again. Rumble. Rumbling sounds could be heard from the lake. In the sky, the young girl's eyes widened. The power of drawing. Perhaps only Mr. Monroe can compare to this? The young girl swallowed her saliva and said, Screech. The red-crowned crane suddenly became restless. What's wrong, little crane? The young girl was puzzled. Screech, screech, screech. The red-crowned crane cried anxiously. What? Dragon vein energy? You felt the unusual movement of the dragon vein energy? The young girl was surprised. Screech. The red-crowned crane nodded continuously. Dragon vein energy? Although it's just a small dragon vein, it has been accumulating for thousands of years. There must be a certain amount of dragon energy. Is Ma Fei trying to absorb the dragon energy here? The young girl asked strangely. Below, a painting had been completed. A crack appeared on the brush again. Yin Chuan's brush made a stroke in the air on a painting. Come, Yin Chuan called softly. Boom! A strong wind suddenly rushed out of the whirlpool in the lake. A gale soared into the sky, instantly dispersing the surrounding clouds and mist. Then it crashed into Yin Chuan's painting. They surged out of the water and rushed into the painting. Vaguely, one could see a faint golden light in the wind. Dragon vein energy. It really is the great Earth dragon vein energy. The girl in the sky exclaimed. Rumble. All of a sudden, the surrounding mountains began to shake. It was as if there was an earthquake. A whole incense stick's worth of time. The earthquake stopped. Bang! The whirlpool on the surface of the lake closed with a loud bang. The gale also entered Yin Chuan's painting. The sky was bright again. Yin Chuan used the brush in his hand to draw again. Merge! Pung! The purple jade brush once again turned into fine powder. By the time the second brush was exhausted, Yin Chuan was already sweating profusely and his face was pale. However, the painting was finally completed. Above the painting, there was a faint golden light. The golden light quickly disappeared into the painting. At this moment, the bamboo house in the painting became more and more lifelike. Even the original black and white had a lot of emerald green. The grass on the ground in the painting was exactly the same as the real thing. Congratulations to the Lord. Lu Jin, Hua Guang, and the other soldiers immediately congratulated him excitedly. Do you know how to watch? Yin Chuan asked. Yes, the old slave knows. Lu Jin stuttered. Watch this painting. Yin Chuan said. Yes. Lu Jin immediately touched the painting carefully. Yin Chuan walked to the side of the palanquin, entered it, and adjusted his breath slightly. The painting just now was the limit of Yin Chuan's current physique. In the sky, the girl held her chin deep in thought. When Yin Chuan recovered and walked out of the palanquin, Lu Jin had already finished watching. A painting and a scroll were handed to Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan took it and gently opened it. The painting was the bamboo house where they lived before. Lu Jin and Hua Guang's eyes were full of curiosity. The soldiers' eyes were full of worship. Lord, what's the use of this painting? Lu Jin asked curiously. Yin Chuan smiled slightly. You and Hua Guang have a good show. Yes. The two immediately grabbed one end of the painting and unfolded it in the void. Yin Chuan grabbed the desk and held it in front of the painting. Buzz. A ripple suddenly appeared on the painting, and the desk mysteriously disappeared. Disappeared? The desk was gone? Everyone's expression changed. They looked again. The desk went into the painting. Lu Jin exclaimed. In the painting, in the small courtyard, the desk from before was being painted. This. Lu Jin and Hua Guang were stunned. This painting has absorbed the chi of the Dragon Meridian and can create a space inside to store some inanimate objects. Unfortunately, there is too little dragon chi and the painting quality is too poor. The space is not big, only 30 feet wide. Moreover, after 100 years, the dragon chi will dissipate and the painting will be useless. Yin Chuan shook his head. Space. Lu Jin was surprised. Lord, the desk is put in. How do we take it out? Hua Guang didn't know what to say at this moment. Reach out and take it, Yin Chuan said with a smile. As he spoke, Yin Chuan reached out and a large number of ripples appeared on the painting again. His arm reached in and took the desk out. This. Everyone was shocked. Lord of God. Everyone bowed respectfully. Ha. Cultivate well. In the future, you will be able to do it too, Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yes, everyone said respectfully. Lu Jin, although there's a space inside the painting, it must not be burned. In the future, you will be responsible for keeping this painting for me, Yin Chuan said. Yes, the old slave will take good care of it, Lu Jin said excitedly. In the sky, the girl looked down. Space treasure? A person at LV3 of the Power Realm can make a space treasure? Are you kidding me? The girl smiled bitterly. Screech. The red-crowned crane nodded. It was speechless. Space treasure is very rare. Not many people can make it like he did. His painting skills are so profound. He knows feng shui And he even encountered the Dragon Meridian? That's too little. Although the space is not big, it is still very impressive. Looks like Mr. Monroe will meet his match, hee hee. The girl smiled slyly. Chapter 29. Spatial artifacts are rare. Not many people can refine them like him. He's so good at painting, knows feng shui, and even encountered the dragon vein? That's too little. It's not a big space, but it's still impressive. It looks like Mr. Monroe has met his match. Hee hee. The girl smiled slyly. Screech. The crane looked at the girl in confusion. Ha ha. Little crane, don't you think it'll be interesting to put him together with Mr. Monroe? The girl smiled slyly. Screech. The crane flapped its wings and nodded. Then let's go down and get to know that kid. The girl smiled. Screech. The crane nodded. Just as the girl was about to descend, whoosh. A beam of purple light shot into the sky from the west side of the feng shui formation. The purple light shot into the sky like fireworks and bloomed into a giant purple orchid. Screech. The crane cried out in warning. The girl looked angry. These idiots. I told them not to barge into the feng shui formation, but they still barged in? Now they're asking for help? Oof. Ignore them. Screech. The crane shook its head. Sigh, fine. I'll save them for your sake. What a bunch of idiots. The girl said angrily. Lowering her head, the girl looked at Yin Chuan and said with a look of pity, Really, it's not easy to meet such an interesting person. Forget it. I'll come and find him in a few days. I'll be back soon. Let's go. The girl shouted. Screech. The crane let out a long cry and flapped its wings, flying toward the SOS signal in the distance. A purple orchid bloomed in the sky in the west, attracting a lot of attention. Yin Chuan, who was teaching Lu Jin how to use the space scroll at the Dragon Vein, also saw the huge SOS signal. Suddenly, Yin Chuan sensed something and looked up. High in the sky, between the clouds, a giant crane flapped its wings and flew toward the feng shui formation. Yin Chuan's eyes narrowed as he pondered. Lord, what are the purple orchids in the sky? Hua Guang asked doubtfully. Don't worry about it. Let's first deal with the Great Jing's consecrators and their 10,000-strong army. This is the territory of the Great Yin. Those who trespass without permission shall be executed. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Understood. Hua Guang immediately replied. Everyone hurriedly packed up and continued towards Emerald Cloud Mountain. Halfway through the journey, the group stopped at the entrance of a valley. Lord, the scouts have returned. Hua Guang said respectfully. Jade Cloud Mountain, what's the situation now? Yin Chuan asked. Hua Guang said, Emerald Cloud Mountain, the four reverends and Grand Zhang's viceroy. 3,000 soldiers stay behind. The other 7,000 were divided into several groups and sent to the feng shui formation. Where's the demon snake? Yin Chuan asked. The demon snake is also at Emerald Cloud Mountain. Hua Guang said. Yin Chuan nodded in satisfaction. However, 5 of our scouts are missing. They might have been captured by them. Hua Guang said with an ugly expression. If that's the case, we can't keep the news of us attacking Emerald Cloud Mountain a secret. Yin Chuan said. That's possible. Hua Guang nodded. Give me the map. Yin Chuan shouted. Yes. Hua Guang immediately handed over the map. After looking at the map, Yin Chuan smiled faintly and said, If that's the case, then let's beat them at their own game. Lord, what should we do? Hua Guang was puzzled. Chapter 30. Of the 500 scouts, most of them are still near Jade Cloud Mountain, right? Yin Chuan asked. Yes, let them burn the mountain. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Lord, the other party should have received the news and most likely left the mountain. Setting it on fire should be useless, right? Hua Guang said worriedly. No matter, just set the mountain on fire for me. Yin Chuan shook his head confidently. Jade Cloud Mountain, top of the mountain. There was an abandoned temple at the top of the mountain. Thus, it became the residence of the Zheng dynasty's consecrators. In the backyard of the temple, waves of roars could be heard. The 3 leopards were panicking, but they continued to roar. Roar, roar, roar. The leopards seemed to want to roar away the fear in their hearts, but also seemed to be warning the huge monster in front of them. In front of the three leopards, there was a 5 zhang long, pitch-black cobra. It was about the same height as a 5-story building. It coiled around and occupied most of the courtyard. The cobra was as thick as a bucket. Its black scales emitted a faint light. There were even some barbs on the back of its neck. It spat out a black and purple tongue, and its eyes were cold. Sisi. The sound of its tongue made the three leopards frightened. Roar. Finally, one of them could not stand the fear and pounced on the snake. The snake opened its mouth. Ka! Billowing black smoke came out of the snake's mouth and immediately enveloped the leopard. The leopard fell to the ground and whimpered before it stopped breathing. Roar! Roar! The other 2 leopards were horrified. They slowly retreated to the wall, restless. Ka! Another wave of black smoke enveloped them, and the other 2 leopards fell to the ground dead. After the leopards died, the snake opened its mouth and swallowed the 3 leopards. In the blink of an eye, the 3 leopards were swallowed, and the snake's body swelled up. Snore, snore. The snake coiled its body and twisted its body. In the blink of an eye, the 3 leopards in its stomach were crushed, and its swollen body recovered by more than half. CSI. The snake turned its head and looked at the entrance of the small courtyard. At the entrance of the small courtyard stood a bald, middle-aged man. How about these 3 leopards? The bald man smiled apologetically. Hiss. The serpent shook its head, its interest waning. Don't worry, I've already sent people to look for the bear. I'll find it for you within 3 days. The bald man smiled apologetically. Hiss. The serpent nodded. Then, ignoring the bald man, the snake closed its eyes and coiled up. The bald man's face stiffened. All right, then I'll leave first, the bald man said. The snake still ignored him. The bald man smiled apologetically and slowly retreated. After leaving the courtyard, the bald man's face sank. He rubbed his bald head with his right hand and looked at the wall on the other side of the snake. He said in a low voice, This time, the feng shui array is broken. I must find a way to break through. Sooner or later, I will completely subdue you. Great consecrator, the governor has caught a few spies and has invited the high consecrator to discuss it. A soldier ran over and said respectfully, Spy? The bald-head consecrator raised his eyebrows. Lead the way. Yes. The 2 quickly arrived at a large hall. There was a broken Buddha statue in the hall, and there were already 4 people standing inside. One of them was clad in armor and had a dignified expression. The other 3 wore Taoist robes and had lofty expressions. However, when the 4 saw the bald man enter the hall, they all greeted respectfully. Great consecrator. Governor, what's the matter? The bald-head consecrator asked the armored man. Chapter 31. That bunch of trash. I sent them to assassinate Yin Chuan, but they were all wiped out. The governor said angrily. Oh, what about Xiao Ma? The bald-head consecrator was puzzled. Consecrator Ma? When they were trying to assassinate Yin Chuan, they suddenly fell ill for some reason, causing the formation to collapse. All their efforts were wasted, and they all died. The governor smiled bitterly. Suddenly fell ill? We shouldn't have agreed to the Yin State's Zhao family. We came here for business, and we don't have the time to help them. A man in a Taoist robe said coldly. Consecrator is right. The governor smiled bitterly. If they didn't agree to the Zhao family's request, the 10,000 troops wouldn't have been allowed to enter the Yin State's territory. The consecrator lived like a prince, so how would he know about this? However, the governor didn't want to be entangled in this matter, so he went along with it. Yin Chuan, the bald-head consecrator, squinted his eyes. We caught a few spies just now, and they were sent by him. These spies are also stubborn. They refused to say anything even after 4 of them died. It was only when the last one was tortured that he opened his mouth. They are preparing to attack our Jade Cloud Mountain. The governor said disdainfully, Oh, attack us? The head consecrator touched his bald head and said strangely, His protector camp only has 3,000 silver-armored soldiers. Their commander, Huoguang, has some ability. The only one they don't dare to touch is that immature Yin Chuan. He must have given the order carelessly to send the silver-armored soldiers to their deaths. The governor said coldly, "Their deaths? If Xiao Ma dies, then they will be buried with him." The head consecrator said coldly, "Yes, I am worried that they will set fire to the mountain. So I am preparing to station 3,000 soldiers at the foot of the mountain." "Do the 4 consecrators want to go down the mountain together?" The governor asked. "Set fire to the mountain? Ha! A mountain fire can only burn your ordinary soldiers. How can it hurt us? We won't go down. You all go down. Also, find Xiong and bring him here in 2 days. Blackie can't wait." The head consecrator said in a low voice, "Don't worry, High Consecrator. The matter of catching the bear has already taken shape. Once we catch it, we will immediately send it over. Our army has already gone down the mountain to set up camp. We will wait for Yin Chuan to bring his troops over. We will definitely not let him return." The governor coldly said, "Yes." The consecrators nodded. On a mountain above a valley, Yin Chuan and Huoguang stood on top of the mountain and looked down at the long passageway. "Is it time?" Yin Chuan looked at the sky and asked. "Yes, Lord. It's almost time. The scouts around Emerald Cloud Mountain should have started burning the mountain." Huoguang said solemnly, "Good. Once the fire starts, the smoke will definitely soar to the sky." Yin Chuan nodded in satisfaction. "Lord, since they already know about us and have made preparations, why do they still want to burn the mountain?" Lu Jin asked curiously. "This is called inviting the enemy into a trap," Yin Chuan said with a smile. "Eunuch Lu, the Lord doesn't want to attack Emerald Cloud Mountain now. Instead, he wants to create the illusion of besieging Emerald Cloud Mountain." Huoguang explained. "Oh." Lu Jin looked at Huoguang. "Once the fire starts on Emerald Cloud Mountain, the 7,000 soldiers heading to the south will definitely abandon everything and return to reinforce Emerald Cloud Mountain. There are many mountains here. This is the shortest and fastest path that must be taken. Do you think those impatient soldiers will choose to slowly climb mountains and wade through rivers to take a detour, or will they take the shortest path to reinforce Emerald Cloud Mountain?" Huoguang said with a smile, "We will ambush those 7,000 soldiers here." Lu Jin immediately understood. "Yes," Huoguang said with a smile. At this moment, Yin Chuan looked in the direction of Emerald Cloud Mountain. Chapter 32. Emerald Cloud Mountain was on fire. Thick smoke rose into the sky. At the foot of Emerald Cloud Mountain, in front of the Black Armored Army's camp, the governor frowned as he looked at the thick smoke in all directions. The governor is wise. With just a few spies, you were able to see through the Yin army's evil plan and guess that they were going to burn the mountain. Of course, the governor is unparalleled in wisdom. Of course, he could see through such a trick. The governor is wise. How could a brat who is still wet behind the ears be a problem for the governor? The group of generals complimented the governor. Hearing the compliments, the governor felt relieved. He nodded and said, "Yes, since that brat has started to burn the mountain, he should be nearby. Increase the manpower and search for them. Find out where they are hiding." "Yes," the generals replied. Above the valley where Yin Chuan was, "Release the arrows," Huoguang ordered. "Xiao, xiao, xiao." A large number of arrows rained down on the valley. "Ah, ah," screams sounded in the valley. Yin Chuan stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the scene of death. Looking down from above, they were like turtles in a jar. This was the death ground of the Black Armored Army. "Don't let a single one escape," Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. "Lord, don't worry. I have arranged for people to be around," Huoguang said respectfully. "Yes," Yin Chuan nodded. Below, the Black Armored Army was quickly wiped out. 1,000 Silver Armored Army rushed out of the valley and quickly moved the corpses away from the valley. They also used branches and leaves to clean up the blood-stained ground. Soon, the valley returned to its original state. Only the smell of blood lingered in the valley. However, When the wind blew, the smell of blood quickly dissipated. Wait for the next batch, Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yes, Huoguang said respectfully. Emerald Cloud Mountain. The raging fire had been burning for a day and night. However, Emerald Cloud Mountain was too big. Even though it had been burning for a day and a night, it still hadn't reached the mountainside. At the foot of the mountain, the Black Armored Army's camp. Governor, we haven't found them yet. The Yin army is a bunch of cowards. We don't know where they are. One of the generals said with an ugly expression. Keep looking, you bastard. Where can 3,000 silver armors be hidden? The governor shouted. Yes. The group of generals replied again. Where Yin Chuan was. Fire. Huoguang ordered. Swish. Swish. The terrain was blessed by the heavens. Batches after batches of Black Armored Army soldiers were killed. Lord, it's been 2 days, but we've only killed 5,000 enemies. I don't know when they'll arrive. Huoguang said with a frown. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, That's about it. There shouldn't be any left. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, This place is not far from the Feng Shui formation. If they can't come back in 2 days, it means that the 2,000 soldiers won't come back. Yes, after this batch of enemy soldiers is annihilated, let the soldiers rest for 2 hours and prepare to face the Zheng dynasty's governor. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, at the foot of Emerald Cloud Mountain. Governor, it's been 2 days and there's still no news. One of the generals said anxiously. That's right, Governor. The fire has already reached the mountainside. Are the consecrators really okay? I don't know if General Zhang and the others have any news. That's right. If General Zhang and the others saw that Emerald Cloud Mountain was on fire, they would definitely come back. It's just that. Come back. The governor raised his head in annoyance. Thick smoke billowed into the sky. Oh no. The governor's expression changed. Chapter 33. Thick smoke billowed into the sky. Oh no. The governor's expression changed. Governor, what's wrong? A group of generals asked doubtfully. Bring me the map. The governor shouted. Yes. Soon, a small general handed over the map. Looking at the rough map, the governor suddenly smiled bitterly. We've been tricked, Huoguang. The governor roared. Governor, what's going on? Send scouts to investigate in this direction. Quick, quick, quick. The governor pointed at the map. The direction he pointed at was where Yin Chuan and the others were. Yes. The governor's expression was ugly. After a moment of silence, he said, Send a signal to the consecrators. Yes. Whoosh. A firework shot into the sky. At the top of the mountain. For consecrators stood outside the temple, looking at the raging fire below. It burned halfway up the mountain. Suddenly, a firework shot into the sky. Seeing the firework, the 4 consecrators squinted their eyes. The 3,000 Black Armored Army slowly advanced in the direction of Yin Chuan's army. In the middle, the soldiers carried 4 palanquins and a huge cage. The 4 palanquins carried the 4 consecrators. The governor stood not far away, leading the troops. In the cage, a black bear as thick as a mountain roared incessantly, constantly slamming the cage. Even though the bear was on all 4s, it was still as tall as 2 people. It was so majestic that 16 strong soldiers were needed to carry the giant bear. A pitch-black snake swam in the middle of the Black Armored Army. Wherever it passed, the Black Armored Army would avoid it in fear. The snake raised its arrogant head, not even bothering to look at the soldiers. After swimming for a while, the snake suddenly looked at the cage. Its cold snake eyes looked over. The black bear in the cage suddenly went quiet and turned its head. Roar! The black bear roared at the snake. The snake glared. Crack! A cloud of poisonous smoke was spat in the direction of the black bear. The poisonous smoke shot over and immediately enveloped the black bear. At the same time, it enveloped the 16 soldiers carrying it. The 16 soldiers screamed and fell to the ground one by one. The army paused for a moment and looked over. At this moment, the 16 soldiers' faces had all turned black, and they were all dead. The surrounding soldiers were all shocked. In the cage, the black bear also weakened, but it did not die immediately. Instead, it looked at the black snake in horror. The snake opened its mouth and bit down on the top of the cage. Boom! The iron cage that trapped the black bear was bitten open by the snake. Roar! The black bear roared weakly, to vent the fear in his heart. Huh! The giant snake bit down and slowly swallowed the black bear in front of the soldiers. At this moment, no one dared to interrupt. The four great consecrators also walked out of their palanquins and waited quietly. Coo coo coo. The sound of the black bear being devoured was so oppressive that it was hard for everyone to breathe. The huge black bear was swallowed by the snake. The snake's abdomen had swelled several times, and it seemed that it was difficult for it to move. The serpent narrowed its eyes. Ka, 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 ka. A stirring sound came from his abdomen. In the blink of an eye, the swelling in his abdomen receded, and the swelling spread throughout his body. Gulp. The sound of the soldiers swallowing their saliva could be heard. Everyone knew that the stirring force in the snake's body was too strong, and it instantly crushed the huge black bear. After swallowing the black bear, the snake was very satisfied. It turned its head to look at the bald head consecrator. Hiss, 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 hiss. The head consecrator immediately understood when the snake hissed. Let's continue on our way. The head consecrator shouted. Chapter 34. Yes. The governor nodded with sweat all over his forehead. Report. A soldier ran over and knelt down on one knee. Governor, the Yin army has formed a formation a mile away. The soldier reported. A mile. The governor raised his eyebrows. Yes, we will see it once we get out of this forest. The soldier said respectfully. Scout again. The governor said in a low voice. Yes. The soldier retreated quickly. Let's go, the governor ordered. The soldiers gathered their thoughts and continued on their journey. Soon, they had passed through the forest. After passing through the forest, they arrived at a vast valley. Stop! Gather the troops! The governor shouted. Ka ka ka! The group of officers and soldiers quickly got into formation. The four great consecrators and the governor stood at the head of the black armored army and looked at the enemy in the distance. In the distance, the silver armored army got into formation and the war drums sounded. Thump! 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 The war drums sounded, encouraging the soldiers to feel their blood boil and their morale soar. The archers stood at the front. As soon as the black armored army entered the range of the archers, 10,000 arrows would be fired. The two armies stood at their respective safe positions. Whoever charged out first will be the first to be shot by the enemy's arrows. The governor squinted his eyes. Great consecrator, your divine snake is invulnerable. Can you first disrupt the enemy's formation? Then we will attack with all our strength? The governor looked at the great consecrator and asked. The great consecrator looked at the governor strangely. Then he smiled disdainfully and said, My Blackie is invulnerable. However, it is your job to lead an army and fight a war. You are so useless that you want Blackie to be your vanguard? Huh, you have guts. You can talk to Blackie yourself. The governor's face froze. Talk to Blackie himself? Are you kidding me? What if Blackie gets angry and eats me? The governor could only accept this reality gloomily. He turned his head and looked into the distance again. At this moment, a silver-armored soldier suddenly ran over from the army. The soldier did not bring any weapons and came empty-handed. An envoy? The governor was curious. Zhang Xian didn't stop the soldier, allowing him to approach. Zhang states Viceroy, our Yin states Emperor who is equal to the Emperor. Viceroy, please go to the center of the two armies and resolve the grievances between the two armies. The silver-armored soldier said solemnly. The center of the two armies? The governor was slightly surprised. At this moment, several silver-armored soldiers appeared from the distance, carrying a large table and several wide chairs. They placed them in the center of the confrontation between the two armies. There was an incense burner and a pot of tea on the table. The incense burner was lit and green smoke rose. The location of the table was beyond the range of the two armies' crossbows. If there are any unusual movements, they can quickly return to their respective camps. Right there, the silver-armored soldier said. Looking at the place, the governor raised his eyebrows and said, "If Yin Chuan and Huoguang are going, then I'll go. I will definitely pass on your words," the silver-armored soldier said with a smile. Then, the silver-armored soldier quickly retreated into the opposite army formation. Soon, 3 figures walked out of the army. It was a young man dressed in a gorgeous royal robe, Yin Chuan. It was a eunuch holding a horsetail whisk, Lu Jin. The last one was Great General Huoguang. The 3 of them slowly walked toward the table and chairs in the center. As for the silver-armored soldiers carrying the table and chairs, they retreated. The governor looked at the opposite side with a strange expression. He frowned slightly, but his eyes eventually turned cold. "Your martial prowess is amazing. Capturing those 3 will be as easy as blowing off dust, right?" the governor said respectfully to the group of soldiers. Chapter 35. Of course, one of the consecrators said disdainfully, "Consecrators, please come with me. While we're talking, we'll capture the 3 of them as quickly as possible. Capture the leader first to capture the bandits. If we capture the 3 of them, we'll win," the governor immediately requested. "Head consecrate." The governor looked at the head consecrator. "Me? I'm not going. I want to take care of Blackie." The head consecrator shook his head and smiled. Instinctively, the head consecrator felt that something was wrong. However, this was a completely open and transparent meeting. How could there be anything wrong with that? Still, the head consecrator was cautious and did not go. "Let's go. We'll each take one." The other 3 consecrators immediately agreed. The head consecrator nodded. The governor seemed to be confident of victory. He led the 3 consecrators and slowly walked toward the table in the center. The snake swallowed the black bear. It seemed to be digesting it as it swam over lazily. It followed the head consecrator and looked into the distance. In the center of the 2 armies, Yin Chuan sat on a chair. Huoguang and Lu Jin stood respectfully behind him. The 2 of them were not very nervous. However, they still instinctively glanced at the incense burner on the table. Smoke rose from the incense burner. It was obvious that they were undefeatable in this battle. A drunken vitality fruit could defeat an essence state expert. With another drunken vitality fruit, wouldn't it be easy to defeat a group of people in the perfected strength state? Yin Chuan's gaze was fixed on the giant snake in the distance. Looking at the giant snake, Yin Chuan's eyes revealed a hint of satisfaction. It was indeed a demonic beast. Yin Chuan looked at the giant snake. The giant snake also felt Yin Chuan's gaze. It glared at Yin Chuan unhappily. Yin Chuan did not mind. He looked at the 4 people walking over. "Governor, I've heard a lot about you. Today, I represent the Yin state to discuss state affairs with you. Please," Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yin Chuan did not get up. He just sat there facing the governor. The governor looked at Yin Chuan, and his expression changed slightly. He had originally wanted to attack immediately, but when he heard Yin Chuan say that he represented the Yin state, he immediately became interested. "You are indeed a young hero." The governor pretended to smile politely and sat down. "You are indeed a young hero." The 3 consecrators frowned slightly, but they also sat down. Lu Jin immediately poured tea for everyone. The governor looked at the tea and smiled coldly. He did not touch it. "I wonder what the Emperor Equal wants to discuss," the viceroy asked. "This is the territory of Great Yin. I wonder, how did Governor manage to lead an army into this place?" asked Yin Chuan while sipping his tea. "I was able to come here because of the Yin state's permission," the governor said calmly. "Have you seen any of my subordinates in the past 2 days?" the viceroy asked in a low voice. "What subordinates?" Yin Chuan pretended that he did not know. The governor narrowed his eyes and did not linger on this topic any longer. "Speak. You represent the Yin state. What state affairs do you want to discuss?" the governor asked coldly. "I would like to borrow something from all of you," Yin Chuan said with a smile. As he spoke, Yin Chuan picked up his teacup and drank again. "What do you want to borrow?" the governor asked coldly. After taking a sip of tea, Yin Chuan put down the teacup and looked at the four people. He said calmly, "I want to borrow your heads." "What? Bastard." The four people reacted almost at the same time and stood up abruptly. However, just as they stood up, they immediately sat back down. Thump, 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 thump. The four people looked at Yin Chuan, their eyes full of shock. Chapter 36. What's going on? Why can't I move? The governor cried out in shock. Oh no! The High Consecrator's expression immediately changed. Die! Huoguang glared and swung the spear in his hand. Bang! The governor's head was immediately snapped by the spear. With a flick of the spear, the governor's head flew out. Until his death, the governor's eyes were wide open, unable to accept this fact. No! The large number of black armored soldiers in the distance cried out in fear. Incense burner? Poisonous incense? Idiot! The High Consecrator immediately saw through the mystery. Big Black, quick, go and save those 3 consecrators. The High Consecrator immediately looked at the huge snake. At this moment, the High Consecrator couldn't care less. Although he loved the huge black snake, there were times when he had no choice but to help. The huge snake shook its head. With a sway of its body, it swam over. Ka! With an angry cry, it swam quickly towards Yin Chuan. Lord, leave quickly. Huoguang's expression immediately changed as he tried to stop the snake. No, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Yin Chuan immediately pushed Huoguang away. Seeing the huge snake pouncing towards him, Yin Chuan wasn't worried. Instead, he was happy. He reached into his bosom and took out a piece of folded rice paper. Huoguang couldn't stop Yin Chuan, but he didn't force him. After all, Yin Chuan's mysterious methods had already convinced Huoguang. The enemy's leader is dead. Kill! Huoguang ordered the silver-armored soldiers behind him. Roar! The army immediately charged toward the black-armored soldiers. The enemy was leaderless, and this was the best opportunity. Ka-ka! The huge snake swung its tail a few times and immediately arrived not far from Yin Chuan. It opened its eyes wide and saw a ferocious evil aura rushing towards Yin Chuan. Evil aura? Could this little evil aura scare Yin Chuan? Yin Chuan unfolded the paper, completely unmoved. Due to the presence of the worshippers, the snake did not spit out poisonous smoke. Instead, it swung its tail. Pop-on! Several boulders were smashed into pieces by the snake's tail. Huoguang took advantage of this opportunity and fiercely threw the spear in his hand. Clang! The long spear collided with the serpent's body, but it was as if it had hit an iron plate. The Vajra great spear was unable to pierce through the serpent's body at all. The snake swung its tail, which emitted a black light, and collided with the great spear, causing a loud explosion. Boom! The great spear flew out, but at this moment, the great spear had already turned into a V shape. The strength of the snake tail was shocking. The strength of the great snake cannot be shaken by brute force. Huoguang said worriedly. Whoosh! The huge snake slithered closer once again, its huge head suddenly probing towards Yin Chuan. The snake opened its mouth wide, and a strong, fishy smell wafted out. It opened its mouth, wanting to swallow Yin Chuan whole. Humph! Yin Chuan snorted coldly. He suddenly unfolded the paper in his hand. Wong! Thousands of golden lights gushed out from the paper. The golden lights immediately blinded the eyes of the snake, and at the same time, dazzled the eyes of the surrounding people. Huoguang, Lu Jin, and even the soldiers who were fighting in the surroundings were momentarily blinded. Boom! Faintly, a loud explosion could be heard. When everyone's vision recovered, they all looked in the direction of the huge snake in shock. There was a white paper stuck on the head of the huge snake, and above the white paper, there was a dazzling golden pagoda that was 30 zhang tall. The golden pagoda was majestic, and it emitted an aura that could penetrate everything in the world. The vast golden pagoda appeared out of thin air, like an immortal miracle, and immediately caused the hearts of the soldiers on both sides to surge. The golden pagoda seemed illusory, but it seemed to have great power. Ka 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 ka. The huge snake struggled and cried out in grief, but it was ruthlessly struck down by the golden pagoda. Boom! The head of the huge snake suddenly flattened, as if the golden pagoda had crushed its skull. Blood flowed out of its eyes and mouth. "Hey!" In the distance, the bald head consecrator exclaimed. Yin Chuan no longer paid attention to the huge snake and looked at the two armies. His eyes turned cold as he said, "Kill." Chapter 37. Kill. Under Yin Chuan's command, a murderous aura surged out. This murderous aura pushed the fighting spirit of the Silver Armor Army to its peak. Roar! The silver-armored army roared. As soon as the soldiers at the front crossed the center line, they were immediately shot with thousands of arrows. As the 10,000 arrows were released, the soldiers at the rear raised their spears and charged forward. Battle cries shook the heavens as the morale of the silver-armored army soared. On the other hand, the black-armored army. The commander's head was separated from his body. The serpent that was both respectful and fearful had actually been seduced by a celestial method. Without a leader, even the strongest serpent was suppressed by the other party, let alone this group of small fries. Kill. At this moment, the black-armored army was terrified. How could they kill him? What would he use to kill them? A wave of arrows rained down, instantly killing and injuring a large number of them. Looking at the crimson-eyed silver-armored soldiers opposite them, the black-armored soldiers even had the thought of turning around and running away. As the weapons clashed, it instantly became a one-sided battle. Head Consecrate, a group of young generals, asked anxiously. With the death of the governor, the head consecrator's position in the army was the highest. At this moment, the head consecrator was staring at the enormous pagoda. Noble spirit? This is the noble spirit. So powerful, so powerful. The high consecrator's face was pale. How could the high priest have imagined that the legendary noble spirit would actually appear in front of him in the form of such a vast golden pagoda? Once the pagoda was unleashed, the elite realm serpent had no power to resist. Ka-ka-ka-ka. The huge snake painfully begged the high priest for help, but the high priest's face could only twitch. Save? How was he going to save them? This was an unequal confrontation. Head consecrator, please give the order, a young general said anxiously. Many of the black-armored army had already fallen. The high priest's expression turned ugly. Let's go. Leave? The black-armored army frowned slightly. However, at this moment, everyone no longer had the intention to fight. Without hesitation, they protected the high consecrator and quickly fled into the forest. Swish! 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 A series of arrows chased after him, leaving behind a large number of corpses. However, the high consecrator managed to escape. Beat the gong! Hua Guang shouted. Clang! The sound of a golden gong echoed into the distance. The gongs sounded to retreat. Hearing the sound of the golden gong, the silver-armored army revealed an unresigned expression. Thus, the black-armored army, who didn't manage to escape in time, immediately became the target of their venting. Leaving behind more than 500 corpses of the black-armored army, the silver-armored army achieved a complete victory. Turning their heads, almost everyone looked at the towering pagoda. The pagoda pierced the serpent. As the golden light filled the area, the serpent let out a miserable shriek. However, under the pagoda, there was nowhere for it to run. Its head was crushed, and its body was crushed. Bit by bit, the serpent's round body became flat. With a whimper, the snake completely lost its life force. At this moment, the 3,000 silver-armored soldiers didn't even care about their victory. Looking at this towering giant pagoda, the silver armor guards were all dazzled. Even though Hua Guang and Lu Jin had heard and seen a lot during this period of time, they were still shocked by the scene in front of them. Yin Chuan stood in front of the golden pagoda, enveloped by the golden light. He looked like a god descending to the mortal world. The three poisoned consecrators at the side all revealed looks of despair. Hua Guang! Yin Chuan shouted with his back facing Hua Guang. Your humble servant is here. Huoguang quickly stepped forward. Clean up the battlefield and prepare to return, Yin Chuan said indifferently. Chapter 38. Yes, Huoguang replied immediately. Lord, the high priest ran away. Should we chase after him? Lu Jin asked worriedly. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, No need. We don't have to do anything. They will die in this forest. Yes, Lu Jin replied. Then, Your Highness, what about these 3 consecrators? Should we keep them? Lu Jin asked again. What's the point of keeping them? Yin Chuan said calmly. The 3 poison consecrators immediately revealed looks of despair. But what could they do? They couldn't change the outcome. Huoguang quickly ordered the soldiers to clean up the battlefield. When everything was cleaned up, the golden pagoda emitted a dazzling light. Boom! The golden pagoda exploded. As for that piece of paper, it was completely reduced to ashes. The silver armor soldiers sighed when they saw the demon snake's corpse. The paper, ink, and brush were too poor. They couldn't withstand my words. Yin Chuan sighed softly. Lord, everything has been cleaned up. Huoguang stepped forward and said, Carry the demon snake back and collect its blood in a container. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huoguang replied immediately. Carry the snake? Although the snake was heavy, the soldiers carrying it were unusually excited. It was a demon beast. Yin Chuan sat back in a sedan chair. The army marched back to where they came from. Lu Jin walked outside the sedan chair and waited for Yin Chuan. Your Highness, these 3 items were found on the bodies of the 3 consecrators. Lu Jin reported respectfully from outside the sedan. In the sedan chair, Yin Chuan looked at the 3 items on the small table. A green jade rui, a small jade bottle, and a palm-sized piece of white fur. Yin Chuan opened the small jade bottle and glanced at it. He said disdainfully, Fasting pills again? He then turned to look at Yurui. Jadeite? It can calm the mind and prevent disturbances during cultivation. This jade rui is not bad. Unfortunately, it is useless to me. Yin Chuan shook his head. Finally, there was a white fur. On the other side of the skin, there was a red rune. The skin of a demon wolf? Was this a talisman? Demon skin talisman? Unfortunately, the strokes of the person who drew the talisman were too weak, and the power was limited. Yin Chuan shook his head. Looking at the 3 items, Yin Chuan suddenly said, Lu Jin, old slave is here. Lu Jin said respectfully from outside the sedan. Find a craftsman to polish this rui jade into a writing brush. Pluck out the fur from the wolf skin and fill it with the brush's hair. As for the fasting pills, keep them for the time being. Yin Chuan handed over the 3 items. Yes, Lu Jin replied respectfully. Outside Yin Chuan's bamboo house, Yin Chuan began to eat again. However, there was only one dish, a large casserole pot, and a pot of white soup. Lord, this is the demon snake's snake soup. Lu Jin said respectfully from his side. Yin Chuan nodded. After drinking a mouthful of soup, Yin Chuan said with satisfaction, The meat of a demon beast is indeed different. This soup contains a large amount of yuan qi. Huoguang and Lu Jin stood at the side and waited quietly. Yin Chuan began to eat again by himself. Not long after, a large casserole pot of snake soup was all in Yin Chuan's stomach. When the snake meat entered his stomach, Yin Chuan felt as if his stomach was on fire. A fierce energy attacked Yin Chuan's body. Lu Jin ordered the servants to quickly remove the chairs. Yin Chuan began to practice martial arts in the courtyard. Huff, huff, huff. As he punched out, the surrounding airflow was quickly driven by Yin Chuan. The snake meat turned into strength and quickly tempered Yin Chuan's body as he practiced his martial arts. As he punched out, waves of air rolled up on the ground. The bamboo forest in the distance also seemed to be affected by the wind from the punches, making rustling sounds. Chapter 39. Rumble. Yin Chuan's body made a slight rumbling sound. His fist shone with a golden light. Boom! After the last punch, Yin Chuan's body made a loud noise. The wind stopped. Yin Chuan was covered in sweat. The sweat was mixed with some black substance, the impurities that were expelled from his body. Congratulations, Lord, for reaching LV4 of the power realm, Huo Guang said excitedly. Demonic beast meat? One pot. Just one pot, and his cultivation had broken through? How much energy was contained in the snake meat? Yin Chuan smiled faintly, not taking it to heart. Lord, the hot water is ready. Please take a bath and change your clothes. Lu Jin said. Okay. Yin Chuan nodded. After entering a bamboo house, Yin Chuan took a good bath to wash away the impurities. He changed into a clean set of clothes and walked out again. Huo Guang and Lu Jin were waiting for him. You can eat anything except for the venom of this demonic snake. I can't finish it alone. You too, eat more and practice harder. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yes, thank you, Lord. Both of them said gratefully. Demonic beast meat? It was not something that mortals could touch. Now, they could eat it to practice. With Lord as an example, both of them could imagine that as long as they had enough demonic beast meat, their cultivation would improve rapidly. Do the soldiers of the Lord Protector's camp have enough meat to practice? Yin Chuan asked. Huo Guang smiled bitterly and shook his head. No, we only have enough to eat. Our cultivation is very slow. Only high-ranking generals would have a large amount of meat to consume for cultivation. 3,000 soldiers, 3,000 mouths. Even if we reared some livestock, even if we hunted some, we could only feed a small portion of the generals enough meat for cultivation while filling their stomachs. Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. How can we practice without enough meat? Huo Guang didn't say anything. It was not that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. Are the brushes ready? Yin Chuan looked at Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin immediately handed over an emerald green brush. Lord, you have so many brushes in your study. Why don't you use them? Lu Jin was puzzled. Those brushes? They can't bear my words. Yin Chuan shook his head. Yes. Although Lu Jin did not understand what he meant, he did not say anything more. Where's the demonic snake blood? Yin Chuan asked. I've already collected it. There's more than a barrel. Huo Guang immediately said respectfully. Have them to the barracks. Yin Chuan said. Yes. The three of them walked towards the barracks. At this moment, Yin Chuan was like a god in the hearts of the soldiers. All of them looked at Yin Chuan with worship. When Yin Chuan arrived, they immediately prepared for battle. Archers, prepare to meet the enemy. Yin Chuan smiled. Yes. Although the soldiers didn't know where the enemy came from, they still responded respectfully. Yin Chuan looked around. Finally, he stopped at a large rock not far away. Taking out the emerald jade brush, Lu Jin immediately understood and quickly grinded the ink. Dipping it in the ink, Yin Chuan didn't hesitate to write on the large rock. Whoosh! Smoke and dust swirled around. When the brush landed, the scene appeared again. Stroke by stroke, the words emitted a gray aura. The gray aura slowly rotated. The last stroke landed. Whoosh! The gray aura suddenly formed a whirlpool. After absorbing the wind from the surroundings, it suddenly exploded. The concentrated aura rushed into the forest in the south where the large rock was facing. A large scatter word was engraved on the large rock. Chapter 40. Scatter? Everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at the immortal scene. Take a bowl of snake blood and pour it into the character. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huo Guang immediately did as he was told. A bowl of demonic snake blood was quickly poured into the character. Ooh! The gray mist appeared on the character again. When the snake blood was poured in, it immediately turned into a bloody mist and was sucked into the whirlpool. Boom! The bloody mist exploded and shot toward the south. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. What a strong, fishy smell. Huo Guang sniffed and said in surprise. When the demonic beast blood is scattered, a large number of wild beasts will be attracted. In the future, there is no need to go hunting. Every day, scatter a bowl of demonic snake blood to attract a large number of wild beasts. kill them, and devour them for cultivation. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huo Guang's eyes lit up. A woo. In the distant forest, a loud wolf howl suddenly sounded. Oh! From the distant forest, wild wolves suddenly walked out. Their eyes were glowing green as they looked greedily in the direction of the army camp. Prepare to meet the enemy. Huo Guang shouted. Roar! The soldiers roared in unison. Woo! The pack of wolves pounced. Release the arrows. Xiao! 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 The massacre began. Yin Chuan grabbed the brush and slowly retreated. Huo Guang led the army to fend off the wild beasts. Lu Jin followed behind Yin Chuan. Looking at the brush in his hand, Yin Chuan was satisfied. Indeed, the quality of the brush was much better. This time, it didn't turn into dust. He passed the brush to Lu Jin and kept it. Lord, with this word, the soldiers will have a lot of meat to practice their martial arts. Moreover, fighting with wild beasts every day will make it easier for them to practice their martial arts. Lu Jin said respectfully. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, They are too weak. We eat the demon snake to train, but they also need to train. I don't want a weak army. I want a strong army. Yes. Today, soldiers, eat your fill first. Tomorrow at 3 in the morning, the entire army will follow me to set up a formation around this area, just in case. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yes. In the forest. It was a huge valley. In the valley, the great consecrator sat cross-legged, surrounded by 40 to 50 black armored soldiers. Suddenly, a black armored army soldier ran in from outside the valley. The high consecrator opened his eyes abruptly and looked at the battered black armored army. Great consecrator, it's not good. The Yin State's Zhao army is surrounding and killing us. Our brothers outside have all been killed. The battered black armored army soldier said sorrowfully. The high consecrator's face was extremely ugly. Zhao family, Zhao Kunwu, shameless. The Zhao family was the one who cooperated with us and asked us to assassinate Yin Chuan. Now, seeing that we have been defeated, they want to kill us all? A young soldier said sorrowfully. Yin Chuan is fine. On the surface, the Zhao family will naturally draw a line with us. I didn't expect them to be so ruthless. The high consecrator said in a deep voice. Great consecrator, what should we do? Do we still want to assassinate Yin Chuan? The young soldier said with an ugly expression. The high consecrator stared at him. Are you crazy? That Yin Chuan must have received the support of the Immortal sect. Do you want to die? Then what should we do? I will go back and leave the Yin state. The young soldier said timidly. No, I will not go back. The high consecrator said coldly. The feng shui formation is about to open. I must go and find a way to break through. I, Lu Gang, will definitely enter the essence state and enter the ranks of immortal cultivators. The high consecrator touched his bald head and said in a deep voice. Chapter 41. Great Yin State, Capital, Yin Jing. Yin Jing Palace. In a courtyard. In the courtyard, a man wearing a dragon robe, with a dignified face and a fierce expression, was the ruler of the Yin State, Yin Emperor. In front of Yin Emperor stood a few officials, followed by an old eunuch. In front of everyone was a corpse. It was the corpse of the eldest son of the Zhao family, Zhao Tianda, sent by Yin Chuan. Zhao Tianda. Yin Emperor squinted his eyes. Yin Chuan killed Zhao Tianda and sent someone to deliver it to your majesty. This is very unusual. Your majesty? An official wearing a green robe looked at Yin Emperor. He dares to threaten me, blaming me for allowing the Zhao family to assassinate him. Yin Emperor said coldly. The emperor is growing up. The green-robed official frowned. Your majesty, do you want to announce Zhao Tianda's death to the public? To gather the people's support and counter the Zhao family? Another official asked. Your majesty, you cannot. The green-robed official immediately shouted. Oh, Chanqing, what do you mean? Yin Emperor looked at him. The emperor is the emperor. Although he does not interfere with politics in the Yin state, He is more important to the people than any previous emperor. Because of the emperor, the Yin state has been standing for 300 years. Although there was a change of people 7 years ago, the support of the people for the king equal to one still existed. After living in seclusion for 7 years, he had gradually faded from the eyes of the people. But if the news was made known to the public, even if he did not show up, his reputation would still cause a storm in Great Yin. I have a bad feeling. Chongqing frowned and said worriedly. What feeling? Yin Emperor said in a deep voice. This corpse was sent here by him. Perhaps he purposely wanted His Majesty to announce this matter to the public. This way, his reputation will reignite the memories of the people and pave the way for him to enter the political circle. Chongqing frowned. Pave the way? Are you saying that he wants to seize my power? Yin Emperor's face sank. This is just my speculation. After all, everyone in the Great Yin state knows that the Great Yin dynasty was originally ruled by a king. Just like Your Majesty, he has the most legitimate right of succession. However, Your Majesty is in charge of the military and government of the Great Yin dynasty, while he only has a reputation that has been accumulated for 300 years. This could be a chess piece to test the waters. He wants to win the hearts of the people first. Chongqing said worriedly. Mr. Chongqing, you're overthinking things. The emperor's equal has the soul loss syndrome, and he's only 17 years old. How could he be so scheming? Another official shook his head and laughed. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Chongqing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Yin Di frowned. There was a moment of silence. Moreover, if Your Majesty deals with this matter quietly, the Zhao family will think that Your Majesty and the emperor's equal are in cahoots and set a trap. The reason for Zhao Tianda's death is Your Majesty, not an ignorant 17-year-old boy. Chongqing said again. We can't announce it, but we can't not announce it either. If what Mr. Chongqing said is true, then the emperor's equal is too scheming. Another official said worriedly. Your Majesty, please make a decision. Everyone looked at Yin Emperor. Yin Emperor was silent for a while. Then he took a deep breath and said, The Zhao family will be removed sooner or later. It's not a big deal to take their hatred. The emperor's equal? I've underestimated him. He wants me to regain control of the Great Yin after 100 years? Impossible. My son will be 100 times better than him. The Crown Prince is a blessing to the Great Yin. The Crown Prince is a genius. The Great Yin may have a new emperor. Chongqing nodded. These days, I don't think I've seen the Crown Prince. Another official asked. Chapter 42. The Crown Prince and the consecrators went to the Forbidden Forest too. Maybe we can meet Yin Chuan there. Yin Emperor stroked his beard and smiled. Outside the Forbidden Forest, in Yin Chuan's bamboo house. For the past 20 days, Yin Chuan, Huguang, and Lu Jin ate the demon snake's meat every day. Their cultivation bases were also increasing rapidly. There were 3 plates of fried snake meat on the table. Yin Chuan ate slowly while Lu Jin and Huguang stood respectfully beside him. As he ate, he asked calmly, Is this the last portion of snake meat? Yes, I ate too much, so. Huguang's face turned red. It's okay. Since your cultivation is high, you need to eat more. As long as your strength increases, you'll be fine. How's your cultivation now? Yin Chuan asked. I'm now at LV7 of the Power Realm, and I've reached the peak. I can break through at any time, Huguang said excitedly. Old Slave is at LV6 of the Power Realm. Lu Jin said excitedly. 20 days, it's only been 20 days. Yin Chuan nodded satisfactorily. Lord, the soldiers have been eating a lot of meat these days. Many of our brothers have broken through. However, the demon snake's blood is running out, Huguang said worriedly. It's okay. It's just demon beast blood. We'll go hunting again in a few days. Yin Chuan smiled. Yes, the two answered. Yin Chuan quickly finished the snake meat in front of him. Don't disturb me, Yin Chuan said. Yes, the two answered. Yin Chuan went back to his room. He closed the door. He sat down cross-legged and close his eyes to regulate his breathing. This last batch of snake meat will definitely help me reach LV6 of the Power Realm. In the military camp, not far away, several silver-armored soldiers were guarding the boulder where Yin Chuan wrote. It was this boulder that attracted countless wild beasts. So that the soldiers could eat enough meat to cultivate, they naturally needed to be protected. At this moment, there was no need for Huaguang to lead the troops. The young generals were more than enough to deal with the wild beasts that came after smelling the scent of blood. "Time's up, lure the beast," a young general shouted. Yes, the once-a-day snake blood beast bait had begun. And right above the military camp, between the clouds, an object slowly flew over. It was a snow-white boat. There was some white fog around the boat, making it blend in with the surroundings. Even if someone looked carefully, they would only think that it was a white cloud. There were 8 people and an immortal crane on the boat. They were divided into 3 groups. The first group was led by a young girl wearing a white dress. She had an exquisite string tied around her forehead that went through her beautiful long hair. She looked extremely beautiful and elegant. She was the young girl who was riding a crane and watching Yin Chuan draw at the entrance of the dragon vein not long ago. The immortal crane stood beside the young girl. Behind the young girl, there were 4 men in black who looked like her attendants. The second group was led by a middle-aged man wearing a white scholar's robe. His face was elegant and his expression was calm. The third group was a handsome young man wearing a golden robe. Beside him stood a dwarf who was only half the height of a human. "Saint, are they the ones?" The man in the white scholar's robe smiled. "That's right, Mr. Monroe. These are the silver-armored soldiers. That young man must be here." The young girl's eyes lit up. "A young man from the mortal world? She, are you sure you're not mistaken?" The young man said unhappily. "No." The young girl, she immediately shook her head. "Mr. Yang, since the saint thinks so highly of him, let's wait and see." Mr. Monroe smiled. Wait? Wait for what? Just go down and call him out. I don't have that much time," Mr. Yang said disdainfully. Chapter 43. Wait a minute. Yushi shook her head. "All right, let's wait a little longer," Mr. Yang said. "The forest is filled with fog. It looks like a formation." Mr. Monroe frowned. "Formation? What kind of formation is this?" Yushi asked curiously. Mr. Monroe squinted and looked for a while. Finally, he shook his head and said, "It looks like a feng shui formation." "A feng shui formation? That's impossible. How can immortals set up a feng shui formation?" Mr. Yang said in disbelief. "Let me see." The dwarf who was following Mr. Yang stepped forward. "Ding Wugu, you happen to be practicing feng shui? Tell me, what kind of formation is this?" Mr. Yang said immediately, as if he was talking to Yushi. Everyone looked at the dwarf named Ding Wugu. The dwarf looked at them and frowned. Finally, he shook his head. "Can you tell?" Mr. Yang asked. "No, but what kind of formation can a mortal set up?" "At most, it's a trash formation," Ding Wugu said disdainfully. "That's true." Mr. Yang nodded. Mr. Monroe stood with his hands behind his back. He shook his head slightly and squinted his eyes to study the area below. What are those soldiers doing?" Yushi asked in surprise. Everyone looked over and saw a soldier pouring a bowl of fresh blood onto a large rock. Bang! The blood was scattered and gushed toward the south. A fishy smell? What a strong, fishy smell. Ding Wugu squinted his eyes. "A formation?" Mr. Yang shouted. "No, it's a word." Mr. Monroe's eyes lit up. "Let's go down." Mr. Monroe was excited. "Yes." Everyone nodded. Mr. Monroe stepped on the ground, and the boat sank. In the blink of an eye, they were below. The boat shrank quickly. He put the boat away, and everyone fell from the sky. Only the red-crowned crane was still circling in the sky. Bang! 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 A cloud of dust rose. The soldiers' faces changed when they suddenly fell from the sky. "Who are you people?" A silver-armored soldier immediately shouted. Mr. Monroe went straight to the big rock. He stared at the words on the big rock and read them carefully. His eyes were full of surprise. Saint Yushi also walked over and looked at the boulder. Young Master Yang also pretended to look at the words on the boulder. No one paid any attention to the surrounding soldiers. In their eyes, these soldiers were no different from ants. Archers, fire! One of the generals shouted. Originally, he was prepared to hunt wild beasts, but the bowstring was already fully drawn. Once the order was given, thousands of arrows were fired at the same time, shooting towards this group of uninvited guests. Whoosh! 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 The silver-armored army was extremely experienced. More than 2,000 arrows rained down like a huge net. If he were immortal, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape from this torrential rain of arrows. But how could this group of people be ordinary? One of Saintess Yushi's subordinates immediately turned his head, glared, and waved his hand lightly. Buzz! There seemed to be a huge wall of air around them. The arrows stopped abruptly when they hit the wall. They strangely floated in the air, and only the tails of the arrows rippled slightly. More than 2,000 arrows stopped in an instant. More than 2,000 ripples appeared like a drizzle on the surface of a lake. More than 2,000 arrows stopped in the air. The silver-armored army's expressions changed instantly. All the soldiers realized that they were in trouble. This group of people seemed to be beyond their ability to deal with. Qing Long, don't make things difficult for them. Saintess Yu, she suddenly said. The subordinate in black, who was glaring at her, suddenly relaxed and said, Yes, Saintess. Clatter. More than 2,000 arrows fell to the ground instantly. At this moment, in the bamboo house that was separated by a bamboo forest, Yin Chuan's body rumbled once again. Golden light shone around him, and then he opened his eyes. LV6 of the Power Realm? Huh. Yin Chuan let out a long sigh of satisfaction. Yin Chuan squinted his eyes and looked towards the bamboo door. In the black gas, Ding Wugu waved his hand fiercely. Chapter 45. Whoosh! Like a storm, the 3,000 soldiers were knocked to the ground in an instant. Ha, how refreshing. It's your good fortune that you ants can see my feng shui technique, Ding Wugu said with a sinister expression. It was as if bullying these mortals made Ding Wugu feel a sense of comfort that he had never felt before. Perhaps his dwarf body had been looked down upon for a long time, causing him to feel a strange perversion. Get into formation and fight again, a few of the young generals shouted. Roar! A group of soldiers immediately responded and raised their spears to fight again. Ding Wugu alone enjoyed the feeling of being superior. On the other side, Mr. Monroe's brush continued to move. Stroke by stroke, he wrote the word scatter. The red and gray smoke around him stirred into a ball. Bursts of rumbling sounds came from the smoke as if they were attacking each other. Mr. Monroe wrote the word assemble ? Mr. Yang frowned. Scatter and assemble are opposite. The two words overlap and clash. Yushi, the saintess, watched attentively. For the word fight, Yushi said again. The winner will suppress the other side until the other side completely disappears. She hadn't finished writing the word assemble. Crack, 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 crack. The boulder on which the words were written couldn't withstand the collision of the two words, and cracks appeared on it. Assemble. Stroke by stroke, the red smoke became stronger and stronger. The boulder was surrounded by red and gray smoke. Everyone was shrouded in it except for Ding Wugu, who was fighting with the Silver Armor Army happily outside the smoke. The last stroke. Mr. Monroe's expression was extremely solemn. He waved the brush and wrote the last stroke of the word assemble. Boom! The red smoke rose again. In the smoke, the two words scatter and assemble overlapped. The two words appeared and disappeared, sometimes red and sometimes gray. Waves of overwhelming aura emanated from them. The boulder that carried the two words cracked more and more. Mr. Monroe held the brush and stared, his eyes full of anticipation. Not only Mr. Monroe, but everyone shrouded in smoke also stared at the two words. Scatter? Assemble? Fight? Who would win? Who could suppress the other? Outside, Ding Wugu was shrouded in black qi. With a wave of his hand, a gust of wind blew. The soldiers around him were no match for him, but the arrows that were shot over annoyed Ding Wugu. A bunch of ants. Today, I'll let you know what a celestial spell is, Ding Wugu said coldly. He pointed his finger at the few young generals who were charging at the front. Immediately, 5 streams of black qi rushed towards them. Bang! Bang! The complexions of the 5 young generals immediately darkened. In the blink of an eye, their complexions became incomparably dark. Their bodies went limp as if they had been poisoned. Ha ha ha, you want to fight me? You're courting death. Look at my feng shui formation. Die. As Ding Wugu laughed sinisterly, he waved his hand again, and nearly 100 streaks of black qi swept towards the silver armor army. The black gas was so thick that anyone who touched it would fall. At this moment, the 100 bolts were even more ferocious than the 5 bolts from before. They were aimed directly at the 100 silver armor soldiers at the very front. Die for me, Ding Wugu sneered. At this moment, an angry snort suddenly came from the nearby forest shrouded in white fog. Who dares to kill my people? Yin Chuan's angry roar could be heard. Boom! A hurricane suddenly gushed out of the forest. Endless white fog instantly rushed out of the forest and shrouded the entire military camp in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, the entire military camp was covered in white fog. The 100 streaks of black qi that Ding Wugu had shot out were instantly dispersed by the white fog. The white fog passed through, making it so that one couldn't even see their own fingers. The black qi around Ding Wugu quickly faded away. Chapter 46. Ding Wugu's expression changed. But in the next moment, Ding Wugu found that everything around him had changed. Ding Wugu saw a vast sea of blood, and the world was blood-red. In the sea of blood, countless evil spirits were surging. Wu! Ah! Ga! Ga! The countless evil spirits in the sea of blood surrounded Ding Wugu and pounced on him. Illusion? Illusion array? Ding Wugu's expression changed. Break! Ding Wugu exclaimed. He formed a spell with his hand. However, Ding Wugu's hand could not break it. How is this possible? Ding Wugu exclaimed. A feng shui master in the essence state? In the forest, Yin Chuan's voice was heard again. In the illusion, Ding Wugu saw more and more evil spirits pouncing on him. Ah! Squeak! The evil spirits were ferocious. They bit off a piece of flesh from Ding Wugu. Thousands of evil spirits bit Ding Wugu, and his flesh was instantly mangled. Although Ding Wugu knew that it was an illusion, he still screamed in shock. No! Ding Wugu exclaimed. On the other side, the 2 words disperse and assemble were fighting. Boom! The 2 words collided with each other. The boulder finally could not withstand the 2 words and exploded. After the boulder exploded, the 2 words only stayed for a while. Suddenly, they canceled each other out and disappeared. A draw. The Saint-Issue, she was surprised. She was surprised that someone's handwriting could be compared to Mr. Monroe's. Was it written by that young man? Unfortunately, this stone is too bad. The battle did not end at all. Mr. Yang said with a hint of regret. Only Mr. Monroe showed a hint of bitterness. Stone? It had nothing to do with the stone. In the end, the 2 words canceled each other out. It should be the draw, that Yushi said. However, Mr. Wenruan knew that it was not a draw. He had lost. He had used the vermilion chalcedony to write, while his opponent had used the worst black ink. Using the worst black ink to fight against his vermilion chalcedony, even if it was a draw, he had lost. What a powerful word! Mr. Monroe exclaimed the word disperse. No, not far away, Ding Wugu's pained howl could be heard. Everyone suddenly realized that something was wrong with their surroundings. Endless white fog? White mist? It's a formation? Feng shui array? Yushi was surprised. Disperse. Yushi's subordinate, Qing Long, shouted loudly. Boom! Qinglong's body seemed to be a source of wind, and a violent gale blew in all directions. Sand and pebbles flew in all directions. A powerful aura violently dispersed the surrounding white fog in an instant. The great array, shrouded in white fog, was broken by Qinglong. After the formation was broken, the surrounding scenery was revealed. In the distance, a large number of injured soldiers were lying on the ground, and not far away, Ding Wugu was restrained by two people. One of them was dressed in eunuch robes, and his horsetail whisk was wrapped around Ding Wugu's neck. The other was a general in silver armor, and the tip of his spear was thrust into Ding Wugu's mouth, aiming straight for his throat. As long as the silver-armored general moved, the long spear would definitely pierce through Ding Wugu's throat. Everyone was stunned. This was because Ding Wugu's cultivation level was in a mastery realm, and the people restraining him were two mortals in the strength realm. Mortals in the strength realm? Moreover, it was a complete suppression. A strength realm cultivator restraining a mastery realm cultivator? After the formation was broken, the surrounding environment disappeared, and Ding Wugu could see everything clearly. However, the tip of the spear in his throat was emitting cold air. Even though Ding Wugu's strength was still the same, he did not dare to move an inch. This was because his life was on the line, and his life was in the hands of his opponents. Strength realm? Only in the strength realm? Qinglong's face was filled with disbelief. Everyone, may I know what is the meaning of injuring my subordinates, destroying my formation, and breaking my tablet? Yin Chuan's voice came from the direction of the bamboo forest. Yin Chuan slowly stepped out from the edge of the bamboo forest. He frowned and looked at the group of uninvited guests. Chapter 47. Yin Chuan's voice came from the direction of the bamboo forest. Everyone, may I know why you have injured my subordinates, destroyed my formation, and shattered my steels? Yin Chuan slowly stepped out from the edge of the bamboo forest. He frowned and looked at the group of uninvited guests. Woo-woo! Ding Wugu had a gun in his mouth as he cried for help. Screech! In the sky, the red-crowned crane flapped its wings and landed beside the young girl. Yin Chuan's expression changed as he recognized the crane immediately. However, Yin Chuan continued to stare at the crowd and did not relax at all. I am Fong Ruo. When I saw the words on the stone tablet, I got excited and broke it. I'm very sorry, Mr. Monroe said solemnly. The word scatter had already dispelled Mr. Monroe's arrogance. Because of this, his tone was still considered polite. My name is Mou Shi. Saintus you. She looked at Yin Chuan curiously. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Kid, who are you? Also, why haven't you quickly released Ding Wugu? Young Master Yang said with his head held high. Yin Chuan looked at everyone, but he did not let Hua Guang release Ding Wugu. My name is Yin Chuan. Why have you all come here without informing me? Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yin Chuan? Your surname is Yin? Mou Shi's eyes brightened. Yin Chuan frowned slightly. That day, I saw that you were familiar with the people from the Day sect. How is Yin Tao from the Day sect related to you? Mou Shi asked. Yin Tao? Mr. Monroe was slightly taken aback. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes at Mou Shi. It's my father, Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Father? No wonder, no wonder. Like father, like son. It is indeed true that Yin Tao fought alone at the Heavenly Bestowment Conference and stood proudly among the heroes. At that time, Wen Ruo was fortunate enough to meet Yin Tao. Wen Ruo admired very few people in her life, but Yin Tao was one of them. So he is the descendant of Yin Tao. Mr. Monroe exclaimed, I will compensate you for all your losses. I wonder if you can release Ding Wugu? Mou Shi smiled. Yin Chuan looked at Mou Shi in silence. Yin Chuan could feel Mou Shi's goodwill. After all, with her subordinate who had just broken the array, it should not be difficult for her to save the dwarf. However, she did not do so. Clearly, she did not want to become enemies. Of course, The reason why he didn't let Hua Guang kill the midget earlier was because he didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Yin Chuan nodded lightly and waved at Hua Guang. Yes. Hua Guang and Lu Jin immediately responded from afar. Whoosh! The spear was pulled out of Ding Wugu's mouth. Hua Guang and Lu Jin immediately retreated. Ayaya, bastards, I want you all dead. Ding Wugu was furious when he regained his freedom. He took out a black ball insolently and was about to attack again. Ding Wugu, Mou, she rebuked coldly. In the distance, Ding Wugu shuddered and immediately turned his head. Holy lady, they humiliated me. I want them dead, I want them dead. Ding Wugu said with hatred. How dare you? Qing Long shouted angrily. A fierce aura rushed toward Ding Wugu. Ding Wugu trembled all over. After a shudder, he calmed down a lot. Ding Wugu looked at the soldiers with hatred. He tried hard to take a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Yes, I will obey Holy Lady's orders, Ding Wugu said unwillingly. Mou, she nodded and did not look at him anymore. However, Ding Wugu looked at the soldiers with a gloomy expression. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.